Chapter 885. Zhao Yan's fireball turned into a black hole beast and swallowed Lin Zhen's jade qilin. Lin Zhen seemed to have run out of ideas. The jade qilin shivered as it turned into a fireball and was swallowed by the black hole beast. Zhao Yan laughed heartily. He had won this battle of fire techniques. The other three didn't need to fight anymore. It was over. Lin Zhen was also smiling. No, your ice heart pill isn't damaged. Zhao Yan's expression changed. Lin Zhen used his mind, and the fireball turned into a huge balloon. It quickly expanded in Zhao Yan's black hole beast. The black hole beast's stomach quickly swelled and started to expand infinitely. Finally, it couldn't withstand the expansion of the balloon and exploded with a bang. The ice heart pill was damaged and melted by Lin Zhen's flames. Zhao Yan lost. This is impossible. Zhao Yan roared in disbelief. Lin Zhen sneered. Nothing is impossible. You actually dare to turn the fireball into a black hole beast. Don't you know that you can only imitate the black hole beast's appearance, but not its spirit? The black hole beast is strong because of the black hole in its body. What makes you think you can imitate the black hole? A man who is never content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. You only know how to imitate, but don't have the ability to swallow. Your black hole beast is just a paper tiger. Get out of here. Zhao Yan's face was ashen. He only knew that the black hole beast was strong, but he couldn't imitate its ability. Moreover, he had to imitate it in front of Lin Zhen, the real black hole beast. After obediently handing over 100 million, Zhao Yan retreated in defeat with his face covered in dirt. Seeing Zhao Yan lose, Lin Yan and the others felt conflicted. They hoped that Lin Zhen would lose, but they also hoped that Lin Zhen would lose to them. Now that Zhao Yan lost, they didn't know if they should be happy or disappointed. Only Lin Zhen's supporters were clapping and cheering for Lin Zhen. The second person to appear on the stage was Mr. Matthew. Matthew was a thin man. He arrived in front of Lin Zhen and said, Lin Zhen, your ability to control fire is indeed good, but alchemy isn't just about fire. It requires years of accumulation. I want to compete with you in picking herbs. Lin Zhen nodded. Okay. The two men came to Lin Zhen's herb counter. Together, Matthew and Lin Zhen wrote down the names of 30 herbs and the quantities to be caught. Lin Zhen, let's use 30 seconds. Whoever can complete the most, the best, and the most accurate wins. Then let's begin. A scale was placed in front of each of them. As time passed, the scales began to move at the same time. Matthew believed that he had reached the pinnacle in this regard. It took countless years of experience to master the art of concocting herbs. He did not believe that Lin Zhen could surpass him at such a young age. Even if Lin Zhen was a saint-level alchemist, his time would definitely be immersed in refining pills. He wouldn't spend too much time on such a useless skill like picking herbs. But when compared, he realized that there was always someone better. Lin Zhen's speed could be described as ghostly. He was like a breeze, shuttling in front of the herb counter. Every time he reached out, he was as fast as lightning, accurately grabbing each herb. Matthew was also very powerful, but he was completely suppressed by Lin Zhen. Lin Zhen would intentionally or unintentionally block in front of him every time, slowing down his speed and making him lose his rhythm. His performance was getting worse and worse. Lin Zhen was about to finish, but he only managed to grab 5 herbs. The people around them shook their heads as they watched. The difference between the two of them was too great. Lin Zhen wasn't only better than him in terms of skill, but his speed was also too fast. After all, Lin Zhen was very strong as a warrior. He completely pushed Matthew to the back. 30 seconds passed. Lin Zhen finished grabbing the last herb and placed it on the scale. Before Lin Zhen could speak, Matthew suddenly attacked Lin Zhen's scale. Matthew was also an immortal expert. He wasn't weak. With a casual attack, all the herbs on Lin Zhen's scale fell to the ground. Ha! Time's up. Lin Zhen. Lin Zhen, you're too naive. We're competing in picking herbs, but there's no restriction on destroying them. You don't even have a single herb. How can you compete with me? Seeing Matthew's arrogant appearance, the surrounding people angrily rebuked him. Old bastard, you can't afford to play. Yeah, what's this? You don't want to admit your loss? He's simply taking advantage of his seniority. This old man cheated. However, there were also people who supported Matthew. They were the people they brought with them. They loudly argued with Lin Jun's supporters. They thought that the time was up. Whoever had more herbs on the scale would win. Lin Jun lowered his head and looked at the herbs that were floating in the air. Some of them fell back to the scale. Lin Jun pointed at the scale and said, "Since this round is established, I still have herbs on the scale. Does this mean that I win?" Matthew froze for a moment and said, "What's your dregs? I still have so much on the scale. Ah, where are my herbs?" Matthew lowered his head and suddenly found that his scale was empty. Not a single herb was left. Not even a speck of dust was left. It was cleaner than washing with water. The others were also stunned. Everyone had been looking at Lin Jun's scale. No one noticed when Matthew's herbs were gone. At this time, Lin Jun suddenly raised his left hand. All the herbs on the palm of his left hand seemed to be sucked in by a suction cup. They were firmly turned into a ball in his palm. "They're all here." When did this happen?" Matthew was shocked. "Just when you made a move on my medicinal herbs, I took all of your medicinal herbs. It's just that I didn't say anything because my medicinal herbs exploded and floated up and fell down a little, but yours didn't have any." Lin Jun sneered and suddenly said sternly, "Matthew, you lost to me when it comes to concocting herbs, and you're far from being able to cheat. How dare you play this game in front of me? You're digging your own grave. Cut the crap. Hand over the 200 million immediately," and all of a sudden, Lin Jun smashed the medicinal materials in his hand onto Matthew's face. "You damaged my medicinal materials on purpose. Now compensate me according to the price. If you can't do it, I will let you know the power of the strongest gladiator in Heavenly Square City." Matthew was directly hit by Lin Jun's herbs. With Lin Jun's means, even a piece of paper could be thrown out by him with the power of a missile. Matthew's face was swollen, and his eyes were blue. After getting up, he murmured and wanted to say something, but Lin Yin and others didn't seem to see him. Lin Yin was also annoyed. If he lost, so be it. There was still a behind. Matthew just had to resort to such underhanded means. Lin Jun had taken advantage of his weakness and made him flaunt his authority. Now, he could not even bear to look at Matthew. Why would he care about his predicament? Matthew withered like a frosted eggplant. Now he finally realized that Lin Jun was not only an alchemist, but also a powerful warrior. He was definitely not someone he could compete with. He obediently handed over the money and even wanted to compensate Lin Jun for the loss of his herbs. Those hired workers were also very perceptive. These herbs that were worth a few $1,000s were priced at a few $1,000,000 by them. Matthew could only be angry, but did not dare to say anything. Lin Jun had won 2 rounds in a row, and the 300 million was in his hands. He was secretly delighted. He was in dire need of money, and these fellows had caused such a ruckus. If he was lucky, he might even be able to get one. 5 billion today. Originally, Lin Jun thought that the third person to appear might be Lin Yin, but he didn't expect that the third person to be the mysterious black-robed man, Lalati. This Lalati wasn't tall. Even if he was wearing a black robe, he still looked a little petite in front of Lin Jun. When this person spoke, everyone knew that it was a woman. This time, among the people who came to cause trouble, Lalati's realm was the highest. He was actually in the middle stage of the god realm. His strength could be considered very strong. Although she was only a 7th grade alchemist, Lin Jun felt that this woman was very powerful. She might even have the hope of advancing to the saint level in the future. In Lin Jun's view, her strength should be above Lin Yin, but he didn't expect her to be the third person to appear. The woman stood in front of Lin Jun and walked in circles. After a while, she slowly opened her mouth. Her voice was very pleasant, but her tone wasn't so pleasant. "Lin Jun, before I compete with you, I'll give you a chance. Are you willing to be my exclusive alchemist? I can provide you with the best alchemy environment. I can guarantee that no one will dare to offend you. For a gang like White Tiger Hall, I can destroy them with just a word. Are you willing?" "Oh, so powerful?" "Not only that, if you agree, I can also provide you with 2 demigod-level guards. Don't you want to enter the Eye of the Storm? These 2 demigod guards can go with you and protect you throughout the whole process. They will let you gain something inside and then come out safely. Lin Jun looked at Lalati from head to toe. Did you forget to take your medicine this morning? When Lalati heard this, she immediately showed a trace of anger. Lin Jun, if you knew my identity, I'm afraid you wouldn't dare to say such a thing. Lin Jun didn't like people who used their identity to oppress others. He responded coldly. If you knew my personality, I'm afraid you wouldn't say such a thing either. At this time, Klinsman suddenly ran to Lin Jun and whispered, Boss, I think this woman's identity is not simple. What's her identity? Klinsman said, Boss, there's a group of people in the endless battlefield who are very powerful. They may not be the strongest, but almost no one dares to offend them. Do you feel it? This woman is definitely less than 10,000 years old. She's actually a 7th grade alchemist from the divine realm. Without a strong backing, it's impossible to do this. In my opinion, she's a descendant of a god. A descendant of a god? Lin Jun was stunned. That's right. A descendant of a god is the child of a powerful god. These people may not be as powerful as I am, but because of their special identity, no one dares to offend them. I think this woman might be a very powerful descendant of a god. Lin Jun waved his hand. No matter who she is, since she came to us, we can't tolerate it. Chapter 886. Seeing that her persuasion had failed, Lala Ti's tone turned cold. Lin Jun, I'll compete with you in alchemy. Okay, how do you want to compete? Even if an ordinary pill is refined, it's impossible to see the effect on the spot. I'm competing with you in alchemy, so I need 2 test subjects. Lala T waved her hand, and someone brought 2 cages over. In each cage, there was a monkey. Lin Jun, these are just 2 ordinary monkeys. You and I will refine a pill each and feed it to the 2 monkeys. Then they will fight in the cage. Whoever wins, in the end, will be the winner. What do you think? Lin Jun's gaze swept across the 2 monkeys. How do we win? Kill, defeat, or submit? Lala T thought for a moment. Both are fine. Everyone here is a judge. This kind of thing can't be faked. Okay, I agree. Let's begin. Lin Jun took out his own alchemy furnace from his interspatial ring. Lala T also took out her own alchemy furnace. Both of them were ready. Lala T suddenly said, Lin Jun, you're a saint-level alchemist. If you lose to a weak girl like me, do you dare to call me master? Lin Jun laughed. Do you dare? Lala T sneered. Why wouldn't I dare? If I lose, I'll take you as my master. I'm just afraid you don't have the guts. Lin Jun clapped his hands and said, It's done. My alchemy skills have finally found a successor. Lala T snorted and didn't say anything else. However, the 2 of them had established an additional bet. Lin Yin encouraged the black-robed girl. Miss Lala T, it's up to you. Lala T nodded slightly. Don't worry, he has no hope of winning. Just as they were about to start, Lin Jun suddenly said, I want to choose the monkey first. Lala T said, Okay. To be fair, you can choose first. Lin Jun pointed to the one on the right. I choose this one. It's a male. At this moment, Lin Yin suddenly laughed. Haha, idiot. The females of these monkeys are even more powerful. Lin Jun's lips curled up. That's not necessarily true. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Lin Jun and Rarati's pill refining officially began. The scene quieted down as everyone watched the 2 of them refine pills as if they were floating clouds and flowing water. Now, no one dared to question Lin Jun's alchemy skills anymore. This kind of bet was a bit unfair to Lin Jun because it was the other side who proposed the conditions. Lin Jun accepted the challenge. One side came prepared, and the other side came unprepared. They could only rely on their own abilities. Although Rarati's alchemy was already extremely proficient and pleasing to the eye, compared to Lin Jun, there was still a certain gap, which could be seen from the speed. Looks like Sage Master Lin is going to win again this time. It's obvious that he's more proficient in alchemy. This must be the strength of a Sage Master. After all, the black-clothed woman is already a 7th grade alchemist. I think so too. Lin Jun has already proven his identity as a Sage Master. In the future, I'll only buy pills from Golden Pill Workshop. I think it's a bit dangerous. This pill is for the monkey. The other party must have practiced many times. it's very likely that the Sage Master will lose. But I think this Rarati's background is not small. If she's really the child of God, Lin Jun might be in trouble in the future if he wins. It's hard to say, but a god wouldn't cause trouble for his child just because he lost a match. If he's so narrow-minded, how can he be a god? The people at the scene were paying attention. Countless people in the dimensional universe were also paying attention. This show was getting more and more interesting. Lin Jun kept adding herbs into the furnace, and at the same time, he accurately controlled the medicinal properties. This bet was very difficult. The other party must be very proficient in stimulating the power of the monkey. Even if his alchemy wasn't bad, the possibility of losing was still very high. So if he wanted to win, he had to find another way. 10 minutes later, the two people's herbs came out of the furnace at the same time. They each came to the side of the monkey they chose. Rarati reached out and touched the fur of her monkey. Facing Lin Jun, the black-clothed woman Rarati had a trace of ridicule. Lin Jun, when I let you choose first, I was really worried that you would choose my little flower. This little fellow has cooperated with me many times. Every time I used a monkey for a bet, she never lost. Lin Jun smiled. Your monkey is a female monkey. So what if it's a female monkey? Little flower and I have a tacit understanding of each other. Rarati suddenly said, Lin Jun, I saw your performance in the virtual battlefield. To be honest, I'm not very convinced. If I can also become a gladiator, I'm afraid you won't be so successful in a virtual battlefield. In this bet, Little Flower will represent me. The male monkey you chose will represent you. It can be considered as fulfilling my dream of becoming a gladiator. This is also why I asked you to come. Lin Jun blinked. You're really boring. Okay, since you insist on defeating me, then let's see how your little flower performs. But she might disappoint you. You'll know when you try. Rarati laughed in disdain and stuffed the pill in her hand into the female monkey's mouth. After the female monkey ate the pill, her body suddenly swelled up. She clearly felt a lot stronger. Her hair stood up, and she looked a lot fiercer. She bared her teeth at Lin Jun's male monkey as if she was going to pounce on him at any time. The black-robed woman was very confident. She had practiced giving the pill to the monkey countless times. She adjusted the monkey's condition to the best. It could be said that there were no weaknesses. Lin Jun didn't stay idle. He came over and fed the male monkey a pill. At the same time, he patted his body. Little guy, I'll rely on you to show off. Remember, you're representing me in the battle against the female monkey. Don't embarrass yourself. The male monkey squeaked, and a subtle change happened to his body. Soon, the two cages were placed together, and the partition in the middle was opened. Little Flower, go. You represent me. If you defeat the male monkey, you represent me defeating Lin Jun. Rarathai seemed to be very stubborn about defeating Lin Jun, as he shouted loudly. Lin Jun also waved at the male monkey. Do your best. You represent me. Rarati looked at Lin Jun. It seems that your alchemy skills are only SOSO. I didn't see any strong performance from your male monkey. This time, you'll lose for sure. Don't be so sure. Let's wait and see. The female monkey rushed over. Her claws flashed cold light in the air. They were as sharp as knives. For a normal monkey, this was already a great killing weapon. Rarati believed that no matter how strong Lin Jun's monkey was, it couldn't be stronger than her little flower. This was proven through countless experiments. Lin Jun smiled and didn't say anything. He waited for the female monkey to attack. Just as the female monkey was about to pounce, the male monkey suddenly patted his chest and stood up. Previously, the male monkey was curled up so people couldn't see clearly. However, at this moment, the crowd suddenly burst into cheers. They saw that the male monkey's crotch had a hard rod erected high. This monkey was actually in heat. Rarati screamed in surprise and then covered her face. At this time, the female monkey also underwent a shocking change. The hair that was originally standing up also smoothened out. The female monkey began to walk in circles around the male monkey. From time to time, she would sniff the male monkey and occasionally rub the male monkey's fur. What was even more excessive was that the female monkey actually stroked the male monkey's crotch. A look of lust appeared on her monkey's face. The audience suddenly burst into laughter. Ha ha, I'm dying of laughter. The female monkey has been seduced. Boss is mighty. How did you come up with such a domineering move? I, Klinsman, am completely in admiration. Go, go. You represent boss. That female monkey represents the opposite girl. Take her down, ha ha. In the midst of everyone's laughter, Rarati couldn't care less about covering her face. She turned to Lin Jun and shouted, Lin Jun, what pill did you give your monkey? Lin Jun smiled. I admit that this is my first time giving a monkey medicine. To be safe, I only gave it a little aphrodisiac and something that can attract the opposite sex. If you want to blame someone, blame it on your female monkey. She's almost in heat and can't stand a little provocation. She couldn't control herself when she saw the male monkey. Lalati was furious. She turned to her little Blossom and said, Little Blossom, you represent me. This time, it was even more amazing. She turned around and saw that the two monkeys had already started fighting in the arena. The female monkey had already been pressed down by the male monkey and started to move intensely. Lin Jun couldn't help but laugh this time. You represent me well. Rarati covered her face with both hands and squatted on the ground. She seemed to want to find a hole to hide in. Miss, I'm afraid it will take a while before the results are out. Why don't you have a cup of tea and rest for a while and wait for the results? Lin Jun added fuel to the fire. Rarati raised her head. Her black robe slid down from her head, revealing a beautiful face with golden hair and green eyes. Her snow-white skin was so red that it was almost dripping blood. What's the point of competing? I admit defeat. Hurry up and make them stop. Then what about our bet? I'll give you the money immediately. Rarati couldn't take it anymore. She was already regretting saying that she represented someone. What else? Lin Jun wasn't willing to let it go. Rarati gritted her teeth and took a deep breath. Master. Good disciple. Lin Jun was in a good mood after accepting a 7th grade alchemist as his disciple. Hurry up and make them stop. Rarati begged. Hurry up, take this cage away. Let them have their fun somewhere else. It's over. Finally, someone took the cage away. Rarati looked at Lin Jun. Master, to be my master, you need to have courage. In the future, there might be people looking for trouble with you. Chapter 887. No one expected that Lin Jun's bet would end up like this. He directly used the fact that Monkey was about to go into estrus to resolve the matter that Lalati had prepared in advance. He even took this 7th grade alchemist as his subordinate. Even if Lin Yin could turn the tables in the last round, Lalati would still be Lin Jun's disciple. This could not be changed. Klinsman and the others were already in admiration of Lin Jun's methods and applauded desperately. Lalati was also free and easy. After Monkey was pulled down, there was no awkward situation. She had already returned to normal. She put on her black robe and silently stood not far behind Lin Jun. However, no one knew what she was thinking. Lin Jun had already won 700 million. Now, only Lin Yin came to challenge him. This round was also the last round. The bet was 800 million. If Lin Jun won, he would have 1.5 billion. If he lost, he would lose everything. He would have to pay another 100 million. Lin Jun absolutely could not take out 100 million, so he could not afford to lose this round. Lin Yin came in front of Lin Jun and stared at Lin Jun for a while without saying anything for a long time. Say something. Since you dare to come to my door, what do you want to compete with? Lin Jun asked. Lin Jun, through fire control, medicine collection, and alchemy, you have proven your strength. I now believe that you are already a saint-level alchemist. So what? Will you give up the competition because I'm a saint-level alchemist? If you admit defeat, I have no objections. That way, you may still save some face. Lin Yin shook his head. Lin Jun, don't be so whimsical. Although you are a saint-level alchemist, I can still expose your facade. After that, Lin Yin came to the center of the hall of Lin Jun's medicine shop. Pointing to the center of the hall, in front of the huge signboard with the words resurrection, Lin Yin said loudly, I am here today to expose your facade. Lin Jun, how dare you say that you can resurrect the dead? Lin Jun frowned slightly. The 9 transformation golden pill that I refined can resurrect people within 7 days. As long as your body is not damaged or incomplete, there is no problem. Isn't this resurrection? Lin Yin sneered. I don't think so. Maybe you can't be resurrected even if your body is fine. Now I'm very suspicious that your medicine is not that good. My medicinal pill is right here. It's not something you can question just because of empty words. You don't have to worry about this. Lin Yin turned to everyone around at this time. Brothers and sisters of Sky Square City, I, Lin Yin, have been selling medicine in Sky Square City for tens of thousands of years. I have never heard of a medicine that can resurrect the dead. Since Sage Lin Jin dares to boast, you must be confident in his medicine. Then, I will test it on the spot today. The people around were taken aback. Test? How to test? Do you really find a dead person to resurrect? There was no way to guarantee the time of death. Or who would commit suicide on the spot? But who would do this experiment? What if they really died and couldn't be resurrected? The crowd was in an uproar. There were all kinds of discussions, but they were obviously excited. Lin Yin quickly continued. In order to prove this matter, I specially found 2 death row prisoners from the prison of Sky Square City. They were supposed to be executed today. Now, I will give them a chance. If they can be resurrected after eating Lin Jin's medicine, they will be free. These 2 death row prisoners also agreed. Now let's try it. Soon, the 2 death row prisoners were brought up. They were both ordinary martial artists who had entered the immortal stage. No one knew what they had done. Lin Yin looked at Lin Jun. Lin Jun, it's not too late to back out now. Otherwise, when I test it on the spot, you won't be able to clean up the mess. Lin Jun smiled. There's no need for that. Just try it. Okay. Since you're so stubborn, I'll start. After saying that, Lin Yin seemed to be about to start with the 2 death row prisoners. At this time, Lin Jun's new apprentice, Lalati, said, Don't you care that someone died in your pharmacy? Lin Jun waved his hand. It's not a dead person, it's resurrection. Lalati was taken aback for a moment. Then he shut up. The people around who felt that something was wrong were also taken aback. Then, a look of realization appeared on their faces. If they really came back from the dead, Lin Jin's business would be very popular. Countless filming began. Everyone wanted to see the process. These live broadcasts were also very popular in the dimensional universe. The title of Resurrection from the Dead was already very attractive. Lin Jin's popularity once again exploded. Lin Yin walked to the first death row prisoner. He didn't believe that Lin Jun could resurrect the dead. Maybe some saint-level alchemist could do it, but Lin Jun was so young. He really couldn't believe it. He came to the first death row prisoner. With a flip of his hand, a short knife appeared in his palm. Without hesitation, he stabbed the first death row prisoner in the heart. Blood flowed out. The death row prisoner clutched his chest and fell to the ground. An immortal martial artist wouldn't die so easily. He stabbed a few more times and completely killed this person. During this process, Lin Jun's expression didn't change. After Lin Yin was done, Lin Jun said, Is there anyone else who needs to be checked to see if this person is really dead? Everyone waved their hands. There was no need to check. He was already dead. At this moment, Lin Yin said, Now, Sage Lin Jun, please save him. Lin Jun nodded. I can save him, but who will pay for the pills? Lin Yin was taken aback for a moment. Then, a trace of anger appeared on his face. What a stingy miser. He just earned a few $100 million, but he still wants to calculate this little bit of pill money. That's different. Now, you're the one who wants to test, not me. Moreover, refining pills also has a cost. If Bosley isn't willing to pay, then carry him away. Someone will be able to test my pills sooner or later. Lin Yin came today to take down Lin Jun. Of course, he couldn't just leave like this. He gritted his teeth and took out 10 million to buy a pill. At this time, no one knew the effects of the pill, and no one competed with Lin Yin. Soon, the pill was in his hand. Lin Yin stuffed this pill into the mouth of the dead man. The pill melted in his mouth. There was no need to swallow it. It quickly entered his stomach. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, this person's wound soon stopped bleeding, and there was a strange fragrance. After a while, the death row prisoner's wound had scabbed, and in the eyes of everyone, his finger twitched slightly. He's alive. He's really alive. This is simply a miracle. I've heard of reviving the dead before, but I thought it was just a legend. It has never happened in Sky Square City. A sage-level alchemist is indeed not for show. Sage Linjun, please accept me as your disciple. I don't want to be paid. I can even pay for it. I can also do odd jobs for you. Count me in. I can have the same surname as you. As long as Master can teach me a little bit of skills, it's fine. Several alchemists actually knelt down and wanted to be apprenticed. The death row prisoner opened his eyes and even sat up slowly. Although there was still a blank look on his face, he soon fell into ecstasy. I'm alive. I'm really alive. Ha ha. Sage Lin Jun, you're really my second parent. I'll serve you forever in the future, okay? Some excited people applauded one after another. There were even smart people who had already snatched the remaining 2 pills to bid. However, they couldn't compete with Lin Yan. After all, Lin Yan was still very reputable. In addition, they had a large number of people. They squeezed the surrounding people away and occupied the front of the counter. They shouted to the people, "What do you people know? There's a way to treat a knife in the heart. Don't make a fuss if you don't know alchemy. The test isn't over yet. Maybe his pill won't have the same effect for other injuries." The restless crowd finally calmed down. Since they couldn't compete with Lin Yin, they wanted to see the final effect. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Lin Jun took back the 3rd pill. You can't compete like this. If you still want to buy it next time, you have to bid normally. Lin Yin's face was gloomy as he came to the 2nd death row prisoner. Mental attack. Lin Yin launched a mental attack on this death row prisoner at the early stage of a mortal life. At the same time, he cut off his neck with a palm. The death row prisoner died on the spot. His body fell to the ground softly. His neck was obviously fractured. Only his skin was connected. Lin Jun frowned slightly. The main cause of death of this death row prisoner was the shattering of his soul. His sea of consciousness was scattered by Lin Yin's attack. It wasn't that his neck was broken on the surface. That was just Lin Yin's trick. If it was the 9 transformation golden pill refined by Lin Jun in the past, he really couldn't save this death row prisoner. But now, the 9 transformation golden pill had been improved by Lin Jun. It had super strong soul power and was proficient in refining mental strength pills. Lin Jun's 9 transformation golden pill had the effect of gathering souls. Especially for people who had just died, it had a miraculous effect. Lin Yin confidently fed the death row prisoner the pill, and then waited to see Lin Jun make a fool of himself. But what he didn't expect was that there was a little golden starlight flickering on the head of this death row prisoner. F***CK. This is too awesome. This is gathering souls. This pill is heaven-defying. I only read about gathering souls in ancient books. I didn't expect it to really exist. This is amazing. Master, even if you hit my face with a toilet bowl, I won't leave. From now on, I will live in the Golden Pill Workshop and be a medicine boy. Senior sister, please accept a bow from junior brother. Lalati, who had just become Lin Jun's disciple, was now a senior sister. Someone actually tried to get close to her, causing her to hide with a look of disgust. Lin Jun smiled as he watched the 2nd death row prisoner resurrect, and then turned to Lin Yin. Boss Li, have you given up this time? It's time to cash in your 800 million, right? Lin Yin's face was extremely ugly. Seeing that the people present were almost treating Lin Jun as a god, how could he be reconciled? When he came, he had a winning thought in his heart. Now he gritted his teeth. No, it's not over yet. Lin Jun, you still have a 3rd pill. Sell it to me. I want to test it again. Lin Jun shook his head. No, I've already used 2 death row prisoners. There are no more death row prisoners. It's illegal to continue. You can't kill people here. Chapter 888. Hearing Lin Yin's words, Lin Jun was stunned for a moment. What did Boss Li say? Lin Yin gritted her teeth and said, I've said it very clearly. I want to test it myself. I now suspect that you've gotten the news. These 2 prisoners have already been bribed by you. You've done something to them. Lin Jun laughed when he heard this. Are you crazy? You brought the prisoners here. How could I do anything to them? It's hard to say. There's no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. What if you knew in advance and drugged the prisoners in advance to ensure that their true spirit wouldn't dissipate and their souls wouldn't be lost? The combination of the drug inside and outside can achieve a miraculous effect. There's such a drug in the ancient pill formula. It can be faked as bringing the dead back to life. Although Lin Yin's words weren't very credible, it still caused some waves in the crowd. Of course, it was mainly the people brought by Lin Yin who stirred up the atmosphere and deliberately smeared Lin Zhen's reputation. However, there were still some pedantic people who had doubts. Although there were some waves, it didn't affect the overall situation. Lin Zhen waved his hand. You don't have to say anymore. I won't agree. It's already been verified. How can I let your one-sided words change things? Chapter 889. Klinsman agreed and informed the city lord's mansion. Actually, there was no need to inform them. The drama at Golden Pill Workshop had already attracted the city lord's mansion's attention. Immediately, officers from the city lord's mansion arrived and arrested the people who smashed Lin Zhen's shop. The officer in charge received a notice from the dimensional universe at this time. The notice was sent by the city lord, Old Man Qin Jing. He demanded that the culprits who smashed Lin Zhen's shop be severely punished. When the officer announced Old Man Qin Jing's words, the people who smashed Lin Zhen's shop were all ashen-faced. Lin Zhen demanded 10 times the compensation. Even if they went bankrupt, they couldn't afford it. His shop had just opened. Although there were many pills on display, it couldn't be worth more than 2 billion. Perhaps a total of 120 million would be the limit. Lin Zhen was really asking for an exorbitant price. He was asking for 10 times the price, and then another 10 times. He was trying to kill them. What they couldn't figure out was how Lin Yin managed to pull off such a ridiculous trick. Looking at the puzzled eyes of the people around him, Lin Zhen sneered. Lin Yin, if I'm not wrong, you're from the Cannon clan, right? Lin Yin's expression turned ugly. How did you know? It's simple. If you knew my experience in the primordial realm, you wouldn't have set a trap for me. Because when I was on the Star of God's Punishment, I had dealt with the Cannon clan's martial artists. Lin Zhen faced the crowd. The Cannon clan's martial artists are twins. One is a martial arts prodigy, and the other is a genius in other aspects. Lin Yin is like that. He must have another body that's a powerful martial artist, and this clone is a genius in alchemy. Otherwise, it's not so easy to become a 7th-grade alchemist. The Cannon clan has a special characteristic. The martial artist is the master. As long as the master is alive, the other person can be resurrected. Lin Yin dared to commit suicide because of this. The life and death of his body are controlled by the other person. Of course, if his body is cut into pieces, it's useless even if the main body is alive. Lin Zhen chuckled and looked at Lin Yin. I was right, wasn't I? Seeing that I was about to cut off your head, your main body couldn't hold back and had no choice but to revive you. Is that right? Lin Yin gritted her teeth and looked at Lin Zhen. After a while, she said, Lin Zhen, you don't know who my main body is. That's why you dare to be so arrogant in front of me. Let me tell you, my main body is a demigod. You'd better restrain yourself. Lin Zhen suddenly gave him a backhand slap. Cut the crap. Do you think you can do whatever you want just because you're a demigod? You brought so many people to set up a trap and destroy my shop. You'd better think about how to compensate me. At this moment, Lin Yin was in the wrong. In addition, the officials were ordered by Old Man Qin Jing to wait again. He was completely unable to say anything. Actually, he still had a secret that he didn't say. The 9 transformations golden pill just now had been replaced by Lin Zhen. He was only given a sugar pill. It turned out that Lin Zhen had already seen through his identity and understood his plan. This guy was really bold. He actually dared to tamper with the pills. He was really too evil. But now that things had come to this, it was useless no matter what he said. No one would believe him even if he said it. After being slapped, Lin Yin was about to go crazy. However, this wasn't his demigod main body, after all. He could only grit his teeth and say, Lin Zhen, don't go overboard. We can't afford more than 10 billion. It's okay. You can't afford it. There's still your pill shop. Give it to me for free. Take it as paying off your debt. After saying that, Lin Zhen faced the officials. These people smashed my shop. I want their shops to compensate. This request isn't too much, right? The officer had already received the order, so of course he would speak up for Lin Jun. No problem, it's reasonable. All of you listen up. If you can't come up with the money to compensate Lin Jun, then transfer your assets immediately. Lin Jun's asking price was too high. They couldn't afford it. In desperation, the people who participated in smashing Lin Jun's shop could only transfer their businesses. Lin Jun obtained 5 pill shops in an instant. The value of these pill shops, including the goods, was more than 2 billion. He also obtained 5 billion in cash. This time, he made a huge profit. After these procedures were completed, Lin Jun's pill shop was also tidied up. The pills were collected. Not many were damaged. In fact, only some counters and appliances were damaged. They weren't worth much at all. The boss's eyes were red. Things that were worth tens of thousands of yuan were robbed of all their businesses. This time, they were really blind to come here to make trouble. Now that they couldn't afford to offend Lin Jun, these bosses began to blame Lin Yan. Lin Yan also saw that the situation wasn't good. He said to Lin Jun fiercely, "Lin Jun, you won this time, but our business isn't over. Your retribution is coming. I promise it will come soon." Lin Jun snorted from his nostrils. "There's no place for you in Sky City. Get lost. I won't see you out." Lin Yan left the crowd in a sorry state. His businesses and money were gone. He really couldn't stay in Sky City anymore. However, he had the skills of alchemy. He could survive in other places. Besides, his real body was on the way. "Lin Jun, let's wait and see. The eye of the storm will be your grave." Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Lin Jun's golden pill shop opened again. This time, it wasn't 1 shop, but 6. These shops were even bigger than Lin Jun's. The foundation was very good. Now that they had changed owners and reopened, the popularity was simply indescribable. This incident had once again pushed Lin Jun's reputation to a new peak. There was no one in Heavenly Square City who didn't know of his name. Moreover, his name had spread to the surroundings at the speed of light. Countless martial artists came to Sky City one after another, wanting to buy the 9 transformation golden pill. However, Lin Jun was only one person. The 9 transformation golden pill wasn't a cabbage that he could refine as many as he wanted. He could only refine 3 pills in one furnace. Usually, he could only refine 1 pill a day. Now that the medicinal pill market was so popular, Lin Jun couldn't let go of the opportunity to make money. Although he got more than 1 billion in cash this time, it cost him some money to reopen the shop. If he wanted to make money quickly, he had to work hard on the 9 transformation golden pill. The avatar stopped comprehending the stone tablet and began to refine pills in the back hall. He refined 2 furnaces of 9 transformation golden pill every day. The rest of the time, the avatar was refining flower nourishing pills. He began to refine a large number of pills for the middle stage of 3 flower realm. He was also purchasing pills for the later stage. There were 6 pills in 2 furnaces. The 6 shops were only limited to 1 pill a day. The starting price was 10 million, but the transaction price was more than that. Basically, they were all above 15 million. The highest price was even 28 million. Just the 9 transformations golden pills alone could bring Lin Jun 100 million in wealth every day. Coupled with the sales of other medicinal pills, Lin Jun had no pressure to make 200 million a day. The other medicinal pills were no longer refined by Lin Jun alone. After he became famous this time, countless alchemists came to Lin Jun, wanting to be his disciple. Of course, Lin Jun didn't have the time to teach them so much, but these people refused to leave. They would rather help Lin Jun in his medicine shop. Studying the composition of Lin Jun's medicinal pills was what they were most willing to do. With these alchemists, Lin Jun didn't let them be idle. They were usually responsible for refining pills for the medicine shop. Lin Jun paid them a salary. These things were all left to Lalati and Klinsman to manage. Lalati was Lin Jun's only disciple. For this female disciple, Lin Jun was still willing to teach her something. Lalati was a woman who was obsessed with alchemy. Every day, she focused on learning alchemy from Lin Jun. Her realm advanced by leaps and bounds, and there were even signs of entering the saint realm. Lin Jun even found that Lalati seemed to be a doppelganger. As for her real body, Lin Jun didn't know and didn't need to know. A month's time passed just like that. In this month, the 6 shops had stabilized. The daily income was rich, forming a huge wealth industry chain. The money in Lin Jun's card was also soaring rapidly. It had reached 7 billion. Today was the day of the auction in Sky City. Lalati, you stay at home and guard the shop. I have something to do today. Got it, Lalati replied. Lin Jun packed up, took all the cash, and went out. Today was a very important day. The ethereal divine clock was of great significance to Lin Jun. He was determined to get it. After going out, Lin Jun summoned the 9-headed lion and went straight to Sky City's auction house. Of course, he could also participate in the auction in the dimensional universe. However, Lin Jun felt that it wasn't appropriate. If he wasn't there, he wouldn't be able to deal with any emergency situation. It was better to come here personally. After arriving at Sky City's auction house and keeping the 9 spirits, someone immediately came out to welcome him. Oh, Saint Teacher Lin Jun, your presence brings light to our humble auction house. This person was an auctioneer with spiritual force transformation. Lin Jun didn't know him, but it didn't matter. Almost everyone in Sky City knew Lin Jun. Lin Jun nodded and followed the auctioneer in. On the way, the auctioneer kept asking Lin Jun, Saint Teacher, may I know what goods you have your eyes on this time? Lin Jun smiled and said, I'm just looking around. Hee, Saint Teacher is still keeping it a secret. That's good too. However, if Saint Teacher has any good goods, you can also bring them to the auction house to participate in the auction. I guarantee that the price will be much higher than what you sell in the elixir store. The auction house had contacted Lin Jun several times, wanting to contract the auction of the 9 transformation golden pill. However, Lin Jun didn't agree to it. It wasn't a good thing for the price to be too high. A single elixir was worth over 10 million. If the price was higher, it would easily cause trouble. After the divine clock was auctioned, Lin Jun even planned to only sell 1 elixir a day. This was because he was about to go to the Eye of the Storm and didn't have time to concoct elixirs here. The auctioneer was still introducing, Saint Teacher, we have a lot of good things here today. There's the ethereal divine clock, the core of a star, and divine crystals for sale. Lin Jun was stunned for a moment. Oh, there are divine crystals for sale? How much is 1 divine crystal? The auctioneer stretched out 2 palms, 1 billion. Chapter 890. Upon hearing this, Lin Jun's heart skipped a beat. It turned out that divine crystals were so expensive. Although it seemed easy for Lin Jun to make 7 billion, it was only because he was famous and had monopolized almost half of the sales of medicinal pills in Heavenly Square City that he could make such a result. If it was someone else, it would be very difficult to earn 700,000, let alone 7 billion. Moreover, 5 billion was just the starting price. The final transaction price of 1 divine crystal was more or less 10 billion. After asking, Lin Jun stood up and walked into the auction house. The auction was about to begin. Lin Jun entered the scene. Although Lin Jun was now a popular figure in Sky Square City, he wasn't qualified to sit in the front row of the auction house. His ticket allowed him to sit in the second row. However, Lin Jun didn't go there. Instead, he found a corner and sat down without attracting any attention. The decorations here were very luxurious. Lying on a huge reclining chair, one could see the auction stage from the slanted angle. There were drinks, fruits, and a number plate at hand. Raising the number plate once represented increasing the bid. Guests began to enter one after another. This was a grand event for experts. One after another, valiant and powerful experts walked into the venue. Among them, there weren't any longevity realm or 3 flower realm experts. The weakest was in the spiritual force transformation realm. There weren't many spiritual force realm experts. Most of them were in the divine realm. Among them, there were even divine stone realm experts. Divine realm experts weren't qualified to sit in the front row. All of them were in the divine stone realm. Next, let us warmly welcome an expert from our Sky Square City. The famous demigod expert in the endless battlefield, chasing Soul King, is here. Cheerful music sounded. Surrounded by a few spiritual force realm maids, a middle-aged man with a dignified look appeared. Lin Jun couldn't help but raise his head. This was his first time seeing an Emperor Realm expert. Emperor Realm experts were super experts in the endless battlefield that made people tremble with fear upon hearing their name. Gods didn't participate in the battles in the endless battlefield. Therefore, the strongest experts in the endless battlefield were the Hall of the Exalted. However, there were only 200 experts in the Hall of the Exalted from the surface races and the Hall of the Exalted from the endless races. The chances of encountering an Emperor Realm expert in the endless battlefield with a diameter of over 100 million light years was too small. One might not even encounter one in one's entire life. Hence, in the eyes of the people, emperors were the strongest in the endless battlefield. According to some statistics and rumors, in the entire primordial realm, the number of conferred king experts did not exceed 6 digits. In the primordial realm, where the population was simply incalculable, this was an extremely small number, so small that it was almost negligible. Therefore, when the soul-chasing king appeared, many people stood up and applauded. Some even took off their hats to salute him. Your Excellency, soul-chasing king, it's a pleasure to meet you. You look great today. It's an honor to meet you. I'm your admirer. The soul-chasing king didn't even spare a glance at those spirit will and God world experts. He didn't even bat an eyelid when someone greeted him. Chasing Soul King walked all the way to the front row and sat down in a VIP seat. Looking around, the soul-chasing king slightly nodded to the Godstone experts as a greeting. Those Godstone experts were delighted. Obviously, it was an honor to receive a nod from the soul-chasing king. After the soul-chasing king sat down, the auction didn't start immediately. After another 5 minutes, another guest walked in. Next, let's welcome our honorable guest from Fu-Tian City. The pride of Fu-Tian City, demigod expert, Heartless King. The temperature seemed to have dropped by a few degrees. A white-haired martial artist wearing a long white cloak walked in. Unlike the soul-chasing king, who had a grand entrance, the Heartless King was alone. Lin Jun was stunned. He didn't expect to see 2 Emperor-ranked experts at the auction today. He immediately looked over. The Heartless King was like a moving iceberg. Not only was his clothes white, but his hair was white as well. Even his eyebrows were white. He carried a white, long sword on his back. It looked like it was made of ice and snow, emitting a strong chill. When this person opened and closed his eyes were faintly glowing red. He had a handsome face, but anyone who looked at him would feel a chill down their spine. Wow, the Heartless King. He's a number 1 expert in Fu-Tian City. He's 4 million light years away from here. I've also heard that this person entered the Tao through slaughter. Back then, when he mastered his cultivation technique, he didn't even recognize his own family and killed everyone by his side, including his beloved for 10,000 years. Because of this, he obtained the title of Heartless King. Yes, it's said that this person's strength is even slightly stronger than the soul-chasing king from Sky City. Some people even say that he has hopes of entering the Hall of the Exalted. Is it that exaggerated? The Hall of the Exalted is known as the strongest below the gods. He's actually that strong. It's usually hard to see an Emperor-ranked expert. I didn't expect to see 2 Emperor-ranked demigods today. I wonder why these 2 experts are here at the same time. Is there need to ask? Their target is either the ethereal divine bell or the divine crystal. I guess the divine crystal is more likely. As a demigod, the divine crystal is the only hope to become a god. The Heartless King walked to the front row and sat in another VIP seat, facing the soul-chasing king from afar. The 2 of them looked at each other, and there seemed to be sparks in their eyes. After the Heartless King appeared, the auctioneer went up the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, let me first introduce myself. My name is Jerry, the auctioneer of Sky City Auction House. Thank you very much for your presence. It's fate that we're all gathered in the city on the other side of the sky and met at the edge of the endless battlefield. Let me propose a toast to all of you. Jerry raised a glass of red wine and raised it. Most of the people raised their glasses and took a sip of their wine. All right, let's start the first auction item today. This is the purple crystal from Tuobo planet. It could be used for the auctioneers started calling out their bids one after another. Lin Jun kept his head down. Although some of the items had piqued his interest, he knew very well what he was here for. He wouldn't waste his money on other things. Obtaining the god clock was the only thing he wanted. During the auction, the soul-chasing king occasionally made a move. Every time the soul-chasing king made a move, the bidding stopped. Basically, no one dared to compete with him. Since the heartless king entered, he didn't say a word. He even kept his eyes closed. No matter what item was being auctioned, he couldn't feel anything. That was until the divine crystal appeared. Ladies and gentlemen, the highlight of today's auction is a divine crystal. I'm sure everyone knows about the divine crystal. Only after the death of a god, the divine crystal formed by the divine stone heart in his body will flow out. How many thousands of years does it take for a god to appear? I'm afraid there aren't many divine crystals in the entire primordial realm. Every divine crystal is the key to a martial artist's qualitative change. It's the ultimate dream of all martial artists. Now, there's a divine crystal being auctioned here. The starting price is 1 billion, and each increment is at least 100 million. Do you want to become a god? Then you must prepare a divine crystal. This is your future. The bidding starts now. I welcome everyone to make a bid. After Jerry's incitement, the highlight of today's auction was finally here. The soul-chasing king was the first to raise the sign in his hand. 1 billion. After raising the sign, his eyes scanned the audience. He revealed a threatening look to some people, indicating that he was determined to get the divine crystal. However, other martial artists could give up other things, but a treasure like the divine crystal was related to everyone's future. There was no giving up. When a divine stone realm expert reached the peak, he could also become a god with a divine crystal. Once he became a god, who would care if he was a demigod? 1 billion. Immediately, a divine stone realm expert followed with a bid. 2 billion. 3 billion. 5 billion. The bids rose one after another. Soon, it rose to 2 billion. They didn't give the soul-chasing king any face. The soul-chasing king's expression didn't look good. However, he couldn't lose his temper in the face of so many divine stone realm experts. He snorted and raised his sign again. 5 billion. This one-time increment of 500 million finally had some effect. Several divine stone realm experts who were competing for the divine crystal backed off. However, this price wasn't enough to scare everyone off. There was still a scholar and a savage divine stone realm expert who didn't give up. 6 billion. 8 billion. The soul-chasing king raised his sign again. 3 billion. 2 billion. 3 billion. The soul-chasing king raised his sign again. 5 billion. Hearing this price, the savage finally couldn't take it anymore. He took the initiative to sit down, which meant that he had given up. However, the scholar was still there. He continued to bid without fear. 8 billion. The soul-chasing king glared at the scholar. Mu Ling, you haven't reached the peak of the divine stone realm yet. You still have a chance to get divine crystals in the eye of the storm. You better not go overboard. Otherwise, it won't do you any good. 4 billion. Hearing the soul-chasing king's threat, the scholar called Mu Ling finally backed off. After hesitating for a long time, the price was still out of his range. Mu Ling sat down dejectedly and gave up on competing for the divine crystals. The soul-chasing king's face was filled with pride. He was ready to reap the fruits of victory. On the stage, Jerry began to shout, "Your Excellency, the soul-chasing king bids 4 billion. Is there anyone who exceeds this price? 4 billion going once, 4 billion going twice, 4 billion going 5 billion. Below the stage, the heartless king, who had been silent all this time, finally raised his sign for the first time. Heartless, are you really going to compete with me? The soul-chasing king's face was filled with anger. Heartless said indifferently, "Nonsense. Why would I come all the way to Sky Square City if I don't want to sell good stuff? I will get whatever I want." Humph. Who doesn't know how to boast? Do you think I will give up just like this? 5 billion. 6 billion. 5 billion. 7 billion. Chapter 891. Chasing Soul King's goal was very clear. He came to this auction house to compete for the divine crystals. He knew his limits. With his talent, reaching the emperor level was already his limit. He couldn't enter the hall of the exalted, and he couldn't rely on his own ability to break through and become a god. So he only had one path, and that was to buy divine crystals and refine them to become a god. But divine crystals were hard to come by, and the auction house didn't have them often. He had been preparing for countless years, accumulating money, waiting for the time to buy them. According to his past experience, he could get these divine crystals for about 5 billion. So this time, he had accumulated more than 6 billion. He came to Tianfeng auction house full of confidence, but he didn't expect to be intercepted by Heartless King. If you didn't have money in your card, you couldn't even raise your card because it had to be redeemed on the spot. If you couldn't take out the money, you had to compensate. Heartless King was slightly stronger than him, and he had more money. Chasing Soul King was so angry that his face turned red. If this wasn't an auction house, he would even dare to fall out with Heartless King on the spot. Stealing someone's divine crystal was a huge enmity. Heartless King didn't care about chasing Soul King's appearance. He said coldly, "Are you still going to bid? Who are you showing that face to?" Chasing Soul King finally sat down dejectedly. A single coin could stump a hero, but could also stump a powerful martial artist. Jerry continued to agitate the crowd, but the purchase of the divine crystals had come to an end. No one was bidding anymore. Not everyone had Lin Jun's ability. Lin Jun's alchemy skills were outstanding even among the saint-level alchemists. He was a peak saint-level alchemist. Even Lin Jun had mastered the 9 transformations golden pill and coincidentally opened 6 elixir stores. Only then did he have 7 billion today. If it were an ordinary saint-level alchemist, it would be amazing to earn a few million or even 10 million a day. Heartless King won the divine crystal without a hitch. Lin Jun watched silently as the 2 king-ranked martial artists bid. He was envious of their strength. He didn't know how long it would take for him to reach the level of conferred king. Perhaps he would have enough time to comprehend the time laws in the ethereal divine bell. Perhaps that day wouldn't be too far away. The auction continued, but the ordinary items did not pique Lin Jun's interest. The 2 titled demigods did not participate in the bidding, but they did not leave. All kinds of small items were gradually auctioned off, and it was finally time for the grand finale of the day. Ethereal Divine Bell. 2 staff members carefully lifted a bronze bell onto the auction stage. Friends, allow me to introduce the last item for today's auction, the Divine Ethereal Bell. I don't know how many of you have studied the law of time, but those who have must know that the law of time is one of the most difficult laws to learn. Time acceleration, time deceleration, time stop, and in the legends, time reversal. If time can really be reversed, then even space and time can be reversed. What a miraculous ability. Today's ethereal divine bell no longer belongs to the ranks of numinous treasures. It belongs to the category of utmost treasures. What was a treasure? That was a supreme treasure. It was the strongest treasure at the pinnacle of the primordial realm. Legend has it that this divine ethereal bell was a treasure belonging to a top-notch deity. The divine bell contains this deity's lifelong cultivation efforts. It contains the profound meaning of the law of time. If a cultivator can comprehend the profound meaning of the law of time, then you can even stop time and make a moment you like last forever. Divine gems and utmost treasures are both of great value. For those who don't have divine gems might be more precious. However, for those who have divine gems, utmost treasures are the most precious. This is because this is an item used by a deity and it has fallen into our heavenly square city. This is everyone's opportunity and great fortune. The auction starts now. Just like the divine gems, the starting price of this utmost treasure is 1 billion. Each bid will be increased by at least 100 million. Let's get started, Jerry shouted at the top of his lungs. The atmosphere of the scene was stirred up once again. Even without Jerry's explanation, everyone at the scene knew the value of this utmost treasure. However, for most of them, this divine ethereal bell was of no use to them. This was because they didn't have the ability to comprehend the law of time. It was just too difficult. However, there would always be people who needed it. Among the hundreds of people at the scene, more than a dozen people participated in the bidding. The price rose rapidly and exceeded $3 billion in just a short while. After it exceeded $3 billion, people began to withdraw from the bidding. Although utmost treasures were great, they couldn't be obtained without money. The scholar and the savage were also in the bidding. When the price reached $5 billion, only the two of them were left. At this moment, the soul-chasing king made his move again. $5 billion. Although he didn't get the divine gems, he didn't want to miss this utmost treasure again. Perhaps he could exchange this utmost treasure for divine gems in the future. If he brought this utmost treasure to the depths of the endless battlefield, the soul-chasing king dared to guarantee that the price of this utmost treasure would definitely be above the divine gems. He believed that he would meet someone who knew the value of this utmost treasure sooner or later. However, as soon as he finished shouting, the heartless king spoke again. $6 billion. The soul-chasing king's eyes widened. Heartless, you've gone overboard. You snatched my divine gems, and now you want to snatch my utmost treasure. Are you here today to go against me? Soul-chasing king, don't think too highly of yourself. I'm not in the mood to go against you. You're not even worthy. I'm here today to buy what I want. If we're talking about going against me, whoever bids against me is going against me. The scholar and the savage sat down again. The two king-ranked demigods went against each other again. They didn't have the wealth or the ability to compete with each other. The soul-chasing king gritted his teeth and said, $5 billion. $6 billion. This time, the heartless king only increased the bid by $100 million. He already knew how much money the soul-chasing king had. With this bid, the soul-chasing king couldn't increase the bid anymore. As expected, the soul-chasing king met his Waterloo again. Faced with a price of $6 billion, he was powerless. On the auction stage, Jerry shook his head slightly. It seemed like Heartless had won again. Just as he was about to drop the hammer, another voice rang out. $7 billion. Who is it? The person sitting next to Wu Qing shuddered, and the surrounding temperature instantly dropped below freezing point. His gaze was as sharp as a knife as he looked in the direction of the voice and saw Lin Jun sitting there. There was an uproar in the auction house. So it's Sage Lin Jun. When did Sage Teacher come? Why is he sitting in the corner? Sage Teacher, I'm going to explore the depths of the endless battlefield in a few days. I urgently need a 9 transformations golden pill. I wonder if I can pre-order a 9 transformations golden pill from Sage Teacher? You have to know that the 9 transformations golden pills price is rising steadily. The supply can't meet the demand. I can't get it all. Me too. I need to pre-order 2 pills. Can I get a discount if I buy more? Lin Jun smiled at the crowd. Everyone, it's the auction time now. Can we not steal the limelight? These experts also knew this rule, but they were a little anxious. They all stopped talking, but in their hearts, they were thinking about how to build a good relationship with Lin Jun so that they could purchase pills. Heartless looked at Lin Jun for a while. His iceberg-like face didn't change at all. He slowly said, "So, with the newly risen saint-level alchemist Lin Jun, you're quite famous. I've heard of your name even in Futian City. However, you're still a little lacking if you want to compete with me for the treasure. 8 billion. Heartless' tone was just like his person. Even his words had the feeling of ice shards. It made people feel as if their bones were cold. It had to be said that Heartless was very rich. As the #1 person in Futian City, Heartless' assets were very strong. He had just spent 7 billion to buy divine crystals, but he could still take out 8 billion to buy the God Clock. This kind of wealth was amazing. Lin Jun didn't have 8 billion now. He couldn't afford to raise the price. However, Lin Jun had his own ideas. Lin Jun looked at the soul-chasing king. Soul-chasing king, can you lend me some money so that I can win this auction? The soul-chasing king frowned slightly. Why? Although you're a sage master, you're not at the same level as us. You can't take out what I need. Why should I help you? All right, since the soul-chasing king says so, I wonder if the soul-chasing king needs this item. With that, Lin Jun raised his hand. A sparkling divine crystal appeared in his palm. Ah, you have a divine crystal too. How much is it? I'll buy it. The soul-chasing king was overjoyed. No one saw his movements clearly. He had already arrived beside Lin Jun. Lin Jun smiled. 6 billion. Deal. The soul-chasing king didn't hesitate and transferred 6 billion to Lin Jun on the spot. After obtaining the divine crystal, he excitedly added Lin Jun as a friend in the dimensional universe. Lin Jun, let's cut to the chase. In the future, you'll be my brother in Heavenly Square City. Other than the city lord, if anyone wants to find trouble with you, you can use my name, the Soul-Chasing King. Thank you, brother. However, I don't think there's a need for that in Heavenly Square City. We'll meet again someday. The Soul-Chasing King nodded. That's right. However, now that I've obtained the divine crystal, I'm going to find a place to cultivate in seclusion. Goodbye, brother. With that, the soul-chasing king hurriedly walked out of the auction house. Clearly, he couldn't wait any longer. After Lin Jun obtained 6 billion from the soul-chasing king, the amount in his card had reached 13 billion. He faced the Heartless King again and said indifferently, Heartless King, a straightforward person doesn't resort to insinuations. I only have a total of 13 billion. If you exceed this price today, I'll admit defeat. 10 billion. A one-time increase of 2 billion. Moreover, Lin Jun also included a psychological tactic. If the Heartless King wanted to compete for this supreme treasure, he would have to spend at least 13 billion. No one's money came from the wind. Even the Heartless King had to think twice before acting. Lin Jun didn't know if the Heartless King had the financial resources to compete with him to the end. However, the Heartless King stopped bidding. Lin Jun, you've won. However, I would like to ask if you want to participate in the Eye of the Storm in the future. Lin Jun was taken aback. That's right. Very good. Then keep the ethereal divine bell well. Don't lose it. With that, the Heartless King stood up and left the auction house. Lin Jun's lips curled into a sneer as he walked to the front of the auction stage. Chapter 892. After obtaining the divine ethereal bell, Lin Jun let out a long sigh of relief. The divine ethereal bell was of great significance to him. It was essential to his future and hope. Although 10 billion was a lot, even costing him a divine crystal, Lin Jun felt it was worth it. Although divine crystals were rare and abundant, there was only one divine ethereal bell. In Lin Jun's mind, the value of the two was not equal at all. After obtaining the divine ethereal bell, Lin Jun left the auction house and returned to the Golden Pill Plaza. His clone was still performing alchemy. From now on, Lin Jun's clone had several main tasks. One was to stockpile a large number of 9 Revolutions golden pills. Lin Jun had decided that after he entered the Eye of the Storm, only the Golden Pill Plaza would sell 1 9 Revolutions golden pill a day. The other pharmacies would no longer sell them. In addition to stockpiling 9 Revolutions golden pills, Lin Jun began to stockpile a large number of herbs. He was refining flower, nourishing pills for the middle stage of the 3-flower realm, storing herbs for the later stages, and also storing herbs for the divine sense realm. Thanks to Lin Jun's proficiency in alchemy for the 3-flower and divine sense realms, Lin Jun did not have to spend a lot of time cultivating. He wanted to collect as many herbs as he could so he could cultivate to the divine realm. As for the pills he needed to refine after the divine realm, Lin Jun had no way to refine them yet. The key was that he did not have the pill recipe, so he could only slowly search for it in the future. Although Lin Jun had the pill recipe, this kind of medicine was very expensive. Lin Jun's 6 pharmacies put up their signboards at the same time and purchased them in large quantities. Countless amounts of money flowed out every day, but the 6 pharmacies managed to maintain a balance of income and expenditure during this period. The work outside was carried out in an orderly manner, and the days passed by one after another. Lin Jun's main body never appeared again. All his energy and time were spent on comprehending the divine ethereal bell. The process of comprehending the divine ethereal bell was unexpectedly difficult. Lin Jun sat in the back hall of the Golden Pill Plaza, a huge copper bell that could cover several people at the same time floating in front of him. There was a circle of carvings on the bell. The bell looked very simple, but the carvings were very bright. On top of the bell, there was a beautiful flower. There were blooming flowers, half-blooming flowers, budding flowers, and even withered flowers. From the looks of it, this was the process of a flower's birth, growth, blooming, and withering. When Lin Jun's spiritual force landed inside, he immediately felt that this god clock was extraordinary. When his spiritual power entered, it was as if he had entered a real garden. Around him were bright and beautiful flowers that bloomed, withered, and died. What a miraculous treasure! I can even sense the flow of time within this treasure. It's either fast or slow. It's hard to understand. Haste is the acceleration of time. Slowness is the deceleration of time. It seems that as long as I can comprehend this ethereal divine bell, I will be able to grasp the primordial realm's time acceleration and deceleration. Acceleration has a miraculous effect in battle, while deceleration has an even more miraculous effect in cultivation. It's just that I haven't found any clues yet. The temporal laws of the new territories are completely different from those of the primordial realm. They are countless times more profound and complicated. Let me start from the aspect of time acceleration. I'll try to understand it and cultivate it. Lin Jun's spiritual force maintained the god clock's suspension. He abandoned all distracting thoughts and began to focus on entering the god clock garden. Lin Jun thought that comprehending the god clock was already difficult enough, but he never expected that the comprehension process was countless times more difficult than he had imagined. When his spiritual force entered the god clock garden, Lin Jun discovered that the temporal laws were contained in the blooming flowers. When a flower bloomed, it was the most beautiful moment. However, beauty was always short-lived. The owner of the god clock seemed to understand this, so the time it took for the flowers to bloom was very short. It was precisely because it was short that it was difficult to grasp. Every time Lin Jun faced a flower to comprehend it, the blooming of the flower would end just as he had a little feeling. It would then enter the withering phase of the flower. Phew, so difficult. Lin Jun ended another round of comprehension and looked at the time in the dimensional universe. He realized that half a month had passed. I really don't know how much time has passed while cultivating. I only felt that it was very short, but I never expected half a month to pass. This is under the condition that I don't have any results. Once I succeed, I'm afraid decades or even centuries will pass in the blink of an eye. I have to learn time deceleration. The path to the peak is destined to not be easy. I have to do what others can't. I need a lot of time to make up for my lack of cultivation time. After temporarily adjusting his unfavorable state of mind, Lin Jun began to summarize. There shouldn't be any mistakes in the comprehension process. I have dabbled in the temporal laws before. I have thoroughly comprehended the time stone and the pocket watch. Although the temporal laws of the primordial realm are more difficult, time is always the same. It just requires more deduction, calculation, and comprehension. But for some reason, every time I try to comprehend it, the blooming of the flower will end just as I have a feeling. It makes me lose my reference point, and it's all in vain. Lin Jun thought about it, and still couldn't come to a conclusion. Feeling a little confused, Lin Jun temporarily stopped his comprehension, got up, and left the back hall. He came to the front hall of the Golden Pill workshop. It was morning, and the staff were just preparing to open for business. Now that there were many alchemists in the Golden Pill workshop, there was no need to worry about ordinary elixirs. Moreover, Lin Jun's clone had been refining elixirs and would occasionally give pointers to ordinary alchemists. As a peak Saint-tier alchemist, Lin Jun's pointers were enough to save them a lot of detours. They benefited immensely. As a result, more and more alchemists were willing to join Lin Jun, forming a good industry chain. The situation of Lin Jun's family dominating the pill industry in Sky Square City already appeared. Lin Jun appeared early now. The alchemists and staff couldn't distinguish between the real body and the clone and greeted him one after another. Sage Master. Morning. Sage Master, your complexion looks good today. Lin Jun also greeted them one by one with a smile. After walking around, he came to a side hall. This was Lalati's residence. She had just walked out of the door and didn't have time to put down her hood. Her long golden hair was draped over her shoulders, and her face was bright and beautiful. She had the exotic charm of a foreign beauty on earth. Morning. Lin Jun took the initiative to greet her. When Lalati saw Lin Jun, she snorted coldly from her nostrils. Seeing someone you don't like early in the morning really spoils my good mood for the day. Except for when you're refining elixirs. You're simply an eyesore at other times. Lin Jun smiled bitterly. Am I such an eyesore? Didn't you stay here because you took the initiative to make a bet? Oomph. You're just an eyesore. If I didn't want to learn your alchemy skills, I would have run away long ago. Unfortunately, you're too stingy. When you let me watch you refine elixirs every day, it's just like a flash in the pan. The time is too short. Hearing this, Lin Jun suddenly froze. Seeing Lin Jun standing there in a daze, Lalati started to panic. Hey, why are you standing there in a daze like a block of wood? Don't tell me you're unhappy because of what I said. Hey, why aren't you saying anything? Actually, you've spent quite a lot of time refining pills. At the very least, you've treated me differently. You're not like those cheap alchemists who come to watch you for 2 hours every day. I'm quite satisfied. Hey, I'm just complaining. You don't have to be so petty. Say something. Seeing Lin Jun not saying anything, Lalati started to get anxious. Lin Jun suddenly reacted. What did you say before? What did I say? Lalati was stunned. What he said just now. I said you don't have to be petty. Forward. I said you've spent quite a lot of time refining elixirs. Forward again. I said you're like a block of wood. You don't have any improper thoughts about me, do you? This is my clone. You can't mess around. I don't mean that. Lin Jun frowned. Not this. Forward again. I said your alchemy is like a flash in the pan. Fleeting. Lin Jun's eyes suddenly lit up. A flash in the pan. I understand. Flowering. So, it's because of the flowering. No matter what kind of training, you have to go from simple to difficult. The road has to be walked step by step. Start from the simple to the beginning. Not like before. Yes, that's it. Hearing Lin Jun say this, Lalati was a bit confused. He waved his hand in front of Lin Jun. What are you talking to yourself about? Don't tell me you've lost your mind. Lin Jun laughed. You're the one who's lost his mind. It's all thanks to you today. Master thanks you. As he spoke, Lin Jun ruffled Lalati's fluffy blonde hair, turning it into a mess. Hey, are you crazy? Why are you messing up my hair? Your hair is nothing. Master has had an epiphany. I've decided to reward you. From now on, you can watch me refine elixirs for 3 hours every day. As Lin Jun spoke, he waved his hand at Lalati, turned around, and walked back to the back hall. Lalati looked at Lin Jun's disappearing figure, but his eyes were filled with amazement. He actually had an epiphany just like that. This cheap master of his seemed to have an extraordinary aptitude. He's about to enter the eye of the storm. If he can have a breakthrough, his future will be limitless. Humans, astral behemoths. It seems like an incredible figure is about to emerge from the surface races. And this person is not simple. He has connections with many people and things. Empress Concubine by Susu was saved by this person. In the future, what will the future be like? Chapter 893. Lin Jun was enlightened. He returned to the back hall and immediately began a new round of meditation. There were tens of thousands of flowers in the garden inside the god clock. Lin Jun did not look at the flowers that had a short flowering period. Instead, he went directly to the front of an ivy vine. The ivy flowers bloomed in layers and flowed all year round. It was enough to ensure Lin Jun's meditation. Time acceleration and deceleration both require process. The maximum deceleration effect here is 24 times. The same goes for acceleration. Only after I can comprehend the corresponding time acceleration will I have the possibility of comprehending time deceleration. Like this ivy flower, it should contain a twofold time acceleration. I'll try to comprehend it first. Lin Jun's judgment was correct. This time, the ivy flower did not decay as quickly as ordinary flowers because its time acceleration was very slow. It was just enough for a beginner like Lin Jun to comprehend. His mental power fell on the flower. Lin Jun used his mind to comprehend the process of the flower blooming. When the flower blooms, the flow of time around the petals is different from other places. It's obviously faster than other places. I have to master this force field. The law of time is incomparably profound and relies on the law of space. Only when space exists can time exist. If there is no space, then time has no basis and meaning. I have to comprehend the flow of time, even more since I'm in space. Since the flow of time is different around the petals, then let me transform into the petals. Lin Zhen's mind stirred. His mental power had already entered the petals, the core of the petals, the stamen. His body was still outside. He felt the normal flow of time, but his mental power was already in a twofold time acceleration. Such a strong contrast was very beneficial to Lin Zhen's meditation. Sitting cross-legged in front of the god clock, Lin Zhen concealed his spirit in qi and entered a deep state of cultivation. Eye of the Storm star field. A level 35 cosmic storm was roaring and wreaking havoc. It was moving at a speed of more than 200,000 kilometers per second. The sky was filled with planetary fragments that were as thin as cicadas' wings and as sharp as blades after being polished by the storm for millions of years or even longer. As the storm rotated, they formed streaks of light blue light. These fragments were made of extremely sturdy materials, and each of them was as powerful as a sharp blade. There was no way to pass through them. The width of the storm reached over 1,000 light years, forming a forbidden zone for life. Even a mosquito that flew over would be instantly sliced into hundreds of pieces. At the periphery of the storm, a space camera with 1,000 times high-speed recording function was recording the situation of a storm from billions of kilometers away. Hey, it had weakened. It's weakened. Through the lens of the camera, the fatal light blue ray that could not be captured at all gradually appeared in the camera. Hurry up and test. The wind speed is dropping rapidly. Level 34, Level 33, Level 30. The storm will stop completely within a week. Haha, it's been 9 million years, and it's finally time for the eye of the storm to stop. A grand gathering is about to take place here. Release the news. Those who want to enter the eye of the storm can set off now. Those who had been observing the eye of the storm spread the news in all directions. There were too many people who wanted to enter the eye of the storm. Just within Sky City alone, the number of martial artists who signed up had exceeded 1 million. Moreover, these martial artists weren't ordinary people. One must know that there was a requirement to sign up in Sky City. Only those who had reached 4-star could sign up. Moreover, Sky City wasn't the only city in the endless battlefield. In the dozens of nearby cities, there were tens of millions of martial artists who wanted to enter the eye of the storm. According to the incomplete statistics, there were about 50 million people from the surface races. Corresponding to the surface races, the number of people from the endless races was about the same. Therefore, there were about 100 million people who wanted to enter the eye of the storm. The eye of the storm was dangerous. The process of searching for treasures was filled with all kinds of unknown risks. Similarly, one would have to face other competitors. According to the process of entering the eye of the storm in the past, the number of people who could come out alive would definitely not exceed half. However, the martial artists were still rushing like ducks because those who could come out alive would have great achievements in the future. Master, the post in the dimensional universe doesn't have any news related to the two young masters. Crazy reminded Lin Zhen in the dimensional universe. During this period of time, Lin Zhen's name was very famous in the surrounding areas. Many people wanted to become his disciple and make friends with him. Lin Zhen also asked Crazy to pay close attention to the situation in the dimensional universe to see if there was any news about Lin Ping and Linen. However, there wasn't any news, which explained the problem. Lin Ping and Linen were definitely not in Sky City. They weren't even in the surrounding areas of Sky City. Father and son were connected. Lin Zhen felt that his two sons were definitely still alive. They were just not in the vicinity. Although his current reputation wasn't small, it was still far from being able to affect the entire endless sea of stars. It seems like my reputation isn't enough. The two children don't even know that their father has come to the endless battlefield. However, the opening of the Eye of the Storm has attracted the attention of the surface races and the endless races. The degree of attention isn't something that Sky City can compare with. If I can make a name for myself in the eye of the storm, they will definitely get my news. He turned his gaze back to the ethereal divine bell. Over the past month, my progress in comprehending the ethereal divine bell is not bad. I have already grasped the twofold time acceleration, which can be used in actual combat. However, comprehending the time acceleration is very difficult. It's definitely not something that can be accomplished overnight. I don't have much time left. I have to prepare to head to the eye of the storm. Lin Jun raised his hand and kept the ethereal divine bell into his inner world. He began to organize his things. He didn't have a chance to comprehend the stone tablet from the sacred ground during this period. He had to comprehend the myriad sword arts Rakshasa. His shadowless steps had reached the 6th level. It would take some time to completely comprehend it. There was also the Luotian escape art, which would be his trump card in the eye of the storm. With this technique, it would be very difficult for anyone to kill Lin Jun. In addition, there were medicinal ingredients. The acquisition during this period of time had yielded initial results. He had collected enough medicinal ingredients for the flower nourishing pill. There were also medicinal ingredients for the divine will realm. Lin Jun had stored enough medicinal ingredients for Lin Jun to cultivate until he reached the divine realm. The 3 destructive divine thunders in his body had fully recovered and could be used at critical moments. Lin Jun's star energy was as high as 350 million. His doppelganger star energy was as high as 400 million. This was enough for Lin Jun to fight against divine realm opponents. Lin Jun was confident that he could fight against an ordinary late-stage divine realm expert if he teamed up with his doppelganger. However, he wouldn't be able to do anything higher, such as the divine stone realm or the demigod realm. In the eye of the storm, divine stone realm experts and demigod realm experts were the main force. Although Lin Jun's current strength was decent, there was still a big gap between him and these top experts. There might be Emperor Realm experts or Hall of the Exalted entering the eye of the storm. However, the chances of encountering them were too low. Lin Jun didn't care too much. There are countless experts in the eye of the storm. My strength is at most average. I have to be very careful. Maybe I need a small team to enter the eye of the storm with others. Lin Jun opened the dimensional universe and began to look for news about forming a team to enter the eye of the storm. There were too many such news. Just in the forum of Sky City, there were tens of thousands of requests to form a team. For experts, it didn't matter whether they formed a team or not. It would be more convenient for them to act alone. However, for those with average strength, forming a team was the safest. For missing members in a 5-member team, we need a powerful warrior with a star energy value of more than 300 million. 2 missing members in a high-level spirit reader team. We need a diamond spirit reader. Team of conscience, sincere cooperation. Divine stone resources will be distributed according to performance. We already have 2 members. Add more if you need. Strong 4-member team, led by a divine stone realm expert. We still need an alchemist. Add more alchemists. Lin Jun glanced around. Actually, according to his conditions, he was very popular. Putting everything else aside, the 9 transformation golden pill was Lin Jun's biggest advantage, as it could save his life at a critical moment. Any team would need it. However, Lin Jun didn't want to join a team rashly. He had to choose the most suitable team. Some teams might seem strong, but if weaklings joined, they wouldn't get fair treatment. While he was choosing, someone in the dimensional universe suddenly added him as a friend. Master, someone has added you as a friend. His name is Chun Yuan. Do you accept? Lin Jun was stunned. He hadn't seen Chun Yuan after the virtual battlefield, but he was sure that Chun Yuan would also go to the eye of the storm. Lin Jun had a good impression of Chun Yuan. Moreover, this person was also from the sacred land of Fallen Star Lake and could be considered as a fellow disciple. Lin Jun immediately agreed to add him at this time. It was probably related to the eye of the storm. Except, soon, Chun Yuan's image appeared in the dimensional universe. Ha ha ha. Junior brother Lin, I haven't had the chance to congratulate you. Congratulations on becoming famous in one battle and entering the eye of the storm. Congratulations on becoming the leader of the elixir industry in Sky Square City. Senior brother Chun, you're too polite. I was just lucky. Luck is also a part of strength. Junior brother Lin, you don't have to be modest. Actually, I have a request for you this time. Please go ahead, senior brother Chun. Junior brother, are you in a team now? If you don't plan to go alone and want to find a reliable team, how about coming to my team? Lin Jun pondered for a moment. Since senior brother has invited me, this team must be very strong. I'm just afraid that I won't hold you back. Chapter 894. Lin Jun came to 77 Empress Street. As soon as he arrived, the door opened. Chun Yuan and a few others welcomed him at the door. Haha, junior brother is here. Quick, senior brother will introduce you. Chun Yuan pulled Lin Jun's hand and pointed at the three people behind him. These three people are not outsiders. They are all from our fallen star, Lake's sacred land. They are Lu Tianhua, Mu In, and Arudi. Lu Tianhua was a vigorous man. He stood there like a straight spear, overflowing with sharpness. It was obvious that he had great attainments in long weapons. Mu In was a brown-haired man who used a sword. Arudi was a tall and strong man. He was so strong that he gave off an inhuman feeling. Among them, Chun Yuan, Mu In, and Arudi were at the late stage of the divine realm. Lu Tianhua was at the peak of the divine realm and looked like he was about to enter the divine stone realm. Lu Tianhua laughed and came over. If I didn't hear from Chun Yuan, I wouldn't know that our famous saint teacher Lin Jun is also from the fallen star Lake's sacred land. After hearing this news, I immediately asked Chun Yuan to contact you. No matter what, you have to let junior brother Lin join our team. We are from the same sect and know each other's background. We can take care of each other. Mu In said, junior brother Lin is here. I'm finally not at the bottom of the team. Lu Tianhua smiled. That's not necessarily true. Junior brother Lin is a saint alchemist and can refine the 9 transformation golden pill that can bring people back from the dead. In a sense, he is the most important person. When Mu In heard this, his face turned slightly ugly. Arudi patted his chest. Junior brother, if there is any danger in the future, just hide behind me. I will block it for you. However, if I am killed, you have to be responsible for reviving me. Lu Tianhua punched Arudi. Do you think you have to revive for free? Junior brother's 9 transformation golden pill also has a cost. I will say it first. In the future, if someone in our team really dies, junior brother will be responsible for reviving them. However, junior brother will also take an extra share of the divine stones obtained from the Eye of the Storm. Lu Tianhua was very considerate. He said this in advance to avoid disputes in the future. Lin Jun also laughed and said, then I won't be polite. At this moment, Mu In glanced at Lin Fan and said, it's still better to have skills. Just get some herbs and burn them. That way, you can earn more than others. Junior brother Lin, I really admire you alchemists. Lin Jun stared blankly for a moment. Then he smiled and said, whether it's alchemy or martial arts, it's all for the sake of better cultivation. It requires hard work. If senior brother Mu is envious, you could take out some herbs and burn them. Hearing Lin Jun's words, Mu In's face turned ugly. He didn't expect that Lin Jun would dare to talk back to him. Just as he was about to continue speaking, Lu Tianhua waved his hand. Let's not talk about this anymore. Junior brother Lin being able to refine pills is also his ability. Who can guarantee that we won't encounter any danger in the Eye of the Storm? Who knows when we might need junior brother Lin's pills to save our lives? Don't make junior brother Lin unhappy. Hearing this, Mu In finally chose to shut his mouth. He knew that everyone needed Lin Jun, and he could not offend him easily. They didn't continue this topic and entered the room with smiles on their faces. Sitting down in the room, Lu Tianhua said, since everyone has agreed to be together, then I'll say some things first. I'm the leader of this team. When we reach the Eye of the Storm, don't act alone. We have to advance and retreat together. After we get the divine stones, we'll split them equally. What do you think? Chun Yuan shook his head slightly. Senior brother Lu, you're the leader and also the most powerful person in the team. You should get more. Lin Jun also said, that's right. If you're strong, you should get more. Otherwise, even if I take out my golden core to save people, I'll be embarrassed to ask for more. All right then, I'll take an extra share. Also, if junior brother Lin takes out his golden core, He'll also get an extra share of divine stones. That's settled. They didn't express any disagreements. Mu then opened his mouth, but didn't say anything. After deciding on the distribution, Lu Tianhua took out a map. This is a map of the Eye of the Storm. It's marked with the situation inside. Everyone knows that there was a divine battle in the Eye of the Storm. Two powerful gods perished here. One of them was called the Hurricane God, and the other was the Thunderstorm God. It said that these two were strong even among the gods. They had countless powerful subordinates. After the battle, they basically destroyed an entire galaxy. In that battle, millions of strong people died, including tens of thousands of demigods. Some of them were even crowned kings. It said that there were even Hall of the Exalted. We're going to the Eye of the Storm to collect the treasures these people lost. The most important of them are the divine stones. The four gods set up an exchange platform here. Everyone in the Eye of the Storm can use divine stones to exchange for treasures and improve their strength. Everyone here is a competitor, so we have to team up to protect ourselves. Mu In said, the battlefield of the divine stones prohibits demigods from entering. If the five of us move together, there shouldn't be too much risk. Lu Tianhua said solemnly, I have bad news for everyone. 3 days ago, a demigod tried to pass through the Eye of the Storm and found that the restriction had disappeared. Ah, demigods can enter too? Arudi's mouth was wide open. That's right. It said that there's a reason for this. It seems that there's a god who has a close relationship with Fu Tian City. A Hall of the Exalted from Fu Tian City and a few king-level experts jointly requested the god to remove the restriction so that demigods could have a chance to enter the Eye of the Storm. That god was one of the gods who set up the reward for entering the Eye of the Storm. With his efforts, the restriction was removed. Hearing this, Lin Zhen's heart skipped a beat. Fu Tian City. Wasn't it the city where the Heartless King was at the auction house? Could it be that the removal of the demigod restriction in the Eye of the Storm had something to do with him? At this time, Lin Zhen remembered what the Heartless King said to him before leaving the auction house. Since he had obtained the ethereal god clock, he should keep it well and not lose it in the Eye of the Storm. Now that he thought about it, this sentence seemed to have a deeper meaning. If the Heartless King had really found someone to do it, then the danger level in the Eye of the Storm would definitely be doubled. However, he could not say this out loud for the time being. He could only take it one step at a time. Lu Tianhua continued to explain the situation in the Eye of the Storm. Because demigods have entered, we have to be more careful. Don't provoke the real experts and try not to enter the dangerous area. Everyone has been through hundreds of battles and knows that there's a future only if you're alive. Don't destroy yourself because of a moment of greed. For example, the core of the Eye of the Storm, the Valley of Wind and Thunder, is a place that no one can enter. Senior Brother Lu, where is the Valley of Wind and Thunder? Is it on a certain planet? No, the Valley of Wind and Thunder is a place where hundreds of planets collided, forming a huge valley-shaped ruin. That's where the final battle of the two great gods took place. It said that the two great gods and a few Hall of the Exalted experts left their legacies there. That's also the core of the storm. No one who has tried to enter has made it out alive. At this time, Mu In said, then we'd better stay away from that place. I'm afraid that the demigods have already taken over that place. We'll just die if we go there. Let's just look around the periphery. Lu Tianhua nodded. Other than the Valley of Wind and Thunder being the #1 forbidden area, there are also two places, the Planetary Cemetery and the Stagger Continent. These two places are where the experts have died in large numbers. Among them, the Planetary Cemetery has the highest number of deaths, but their strength is relatively weaker. The Stagger Continent has fewer deaths, but most of them are divinity stones, demigods, and even regal demigods. The quality of the treasures there is higher. If we go in, our first goal is to go to the Planetary Cemetery. That's the area where low-level warriors live. If we go to the Stagger Continent, I'm afraid we'll be killed by the demigods. Lu Tianhua said a lot and took a break. That's about it. If you meet people from the surface races in the Eye of the Storm, try to control yourself. Our main enemies are the endless races. If you meet them, there will be a battle. Everyone, Be careful. Qin Yuan smiled. Understood. Our team's position in the eye of the storm is a team of losers. Don't be rash and go to the area of the rich and handsome. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. Lu Tianhua laughed. Although this description doesn't sound good, it's quite appropriate. Qin Yuan said, Captain, when are we leaving? The eye of the storm will open in less than a week. If everyone is ready, we'll leave now. It'll take at least 5 days to get to the eye of the storm from here. We're ready. We're ready. Everyone answered. Okay, then let's get ready to go. Take my car. Lu Tianhua raised his hand, and a dragon car pulled by an azure dragon appeared. Get on. We'll go to the city lord's mansion to get a number plate. When we get to the eye of the storm, we'll have to check. Other than warriors who have registered successfully, other wandering warriors are not allowed to enter. The few of them got on the dragon car. The azure dragon let out a dragon roar and soared into the sky, heading in the direction of the city lord's mansion. A few minutes later, the dragon car landed in front of the city lord's mansion. The 5 of them got off one by one. There was a long queue at the gate of the city lord's mansion. Warriors who wanted to go to the eye of the storm had to register at the city lord's mansion and get a number plate. After waiting in line for 6 hours, it was finally Lin Jun's turn. This is your number plate. Sky City's 8802 team. 5 members. Captain Lu Tianhua. Team members Qin Yuan, Arudi, Mu In, and Lin Jun. Check if there's any mistake. There's no mistake. Everyone's dimensional universe has been opened. When you get to the eye of the storm, you can enter through the check. You can check the panel of the God's reward through your dimensional universe. All the rewards are listed there and marked clearly. The few of them nodded and left the city lord's mansion. Okay, junior brothers, let's get up and go to the eye of the storm. I hope everyone will cheer up and not ruin the reputation of our fallen star lake. Lu Tianhua said and waved his hand. The dragon car started. Chapter 895. On the dragon chariot, Lin Jun leaned back in his seat and opened the exchange panel in the dimensional universe. The rewards on the exchange panel were provided by the 4 gods. The gods did not lack money, and they did not need ordinary currency. What the gods needed were godstones, a large number of them. Godstones could be used as a high-level currency among the gods, and they could also be used for cultivation. It was said that the god crystal circulation was powerful and could be strengthened by absorbing and refining a large number of godstones. Therefore, godstones were very important to the gods, but for people below the gods, they were basically useless. Everyone in the eye of the storm was actually working for the 4 gods. They collected godstones and brought them to the gods to exchange for good things. Wow, there are really a lot of good things. Opening the exchange panel, Lin Jun's eyes lit up. 3 godstones could be exchanged for a heavenly spirit fruit. The heavenly spirit fruit could restore a martial artist's exhausted star power to a full state in an instant. Not every ancient martial art practitioner had Lin Jun's super strong endurance. A fruit that could instantly restore one's condition was something that many people yearned for even in their dreams. However, each person could only take one in a month, but this did not prevent martial artists from storing a few more in case of an emergency. Secret manuals of cultivation methods, spiritual treasures, and such things were also available. Upper-grade spiritual treasure Cold Edge Saber. Exchange price of 20 godstones. Not expensive. Supreme-grade spiritual treasure 4-symbol shield. Exchange price of 300 godstones. This is already very powerful. It's a supreme-grade defensive spiritual treasure. Almost indestructible. Dazzling gold body tempering art. Exchange price of 220 godstones. This is also not bad. After mastering it, the defense will be almost on par with my armor. Damn! Ultimate Treasure Divine Sword. Exchange price of 4,000 godstones. This is totally a weapon of the gods, and they're actually exchanging it for godstones. There's actually more. Ultimate Treasure Heaven Splitting Axe. Exchange price of 5,000 godstones. Ultimate Treasure Spirit Light Armor. Exchange price of 8,000 godstones. Lin Jun was a little dazzled as he looked around. There were a total of 9 ultimate treasures that could be exchanged. Saber, spear, sword, halberd, shield, armor, hammer, and staff, plus a bow and quiver. Each supreme treasure had great power and strength. In the hands of a martial artist, it was completely a sharp weapon to fight across realms. These utmost treasures are pretty decent. However, I feel that my God's clock seems to be a little better. Not only does it contain the laws of time, it should also have some special functions. It's definitely above these utmost treasures. The treasures that these gods took out probably aren't their best. They just took out some things that they didn't need and made these warriors work for them. However, for ordinary warriors, supreme treasures are indeed enough to drive them crazy. In addition to cultivation methods and treasures, there were also divine crystals. There were about a dozen divine crystals of various colors on the exchange panel. The red ones were fire elemental divine crystals. The green ones were wind elemental divine crystals. The yellow ones were earth elemental divine crystals. Lin Jun also had a divine crystal before. Back then, his divine crystal was red. At first, Lin Jun thought that all divine crystals were red. Later on, he found out that divine crystals were also divided into different elements. It was most appropriate to choose the divine crystal that was most suitable for oneself to absorb. If one absorbed divine crystals of different elements, there might be some negative consequences. However, Lin Jun wasn't too clear about the specifics. No one had explained these things to him before. The price of these divine crystals was basically 3,000 divine stones per divine crystal. The price was relatively uniform. However, since there were elemental elements, there should be special elements such as ice, lightning, light, and so on. However, Lin Jun didn't see any of them here. Presumably, divine crystals of special elements would be more expensive. However, these gods hadn't been listed yet. He didn't know if there would be more treasures in the future. Other than divine crystals, there were even better things. Inheritance Crystal Ball. Inheritance Crystal Ball was a martial artist's lifetime of learning. The most important and most essential part was recorded in a crystal ball and passed down to future generations. It was considered a priceless treasure. Divine Stone Realm Inheritance Crystal Ball was 500 divine stones per divine stone. Demigod Realm Inheritance Crystal Ball was 1,000 divine stones per divine stone. Emperor Realm Inheritance Crystal Ball was 3,000 divine stones per divine stone. Hall of the Exalted Inheritance Crystal Ball was 10,000 divine stones per divine stone. Among them, the most eye-catching one was a huge crystal ball. God's Inheritance. This was left behind by a god. It recorded the god's lifetime of learning, his cultivation techniques, knowledge, and experiences. It would greatly increase a martial artist's strength. Obtaining God's inheritance meant that there was a high chance of entering the God realm. This was the greatest attraction. It wasn't refining divine crystals to enter the God realm. It was self-cultivation. This was a world of difference. God's Inheritance Crystal Ball was 100,000 divine stones per divine stone. This was also the most valuable item on the exchange panel. It was also something that almost all martial artists yearned for. Lin Jun's fingers gently rubbed as he secretly weighed in his heart. What choice was the most beneficial to him? The Eye of the Storm took 49 years. Divine stones definitely weren't easy to find. He had to make a careful plan and choose the most suitable item for himself. He couldn't spend money on meaningless things. After thinking for a while, Lin Jun felt a bit of a headache. There were too many things to exchange for. It was better to wait until he reached the Eye of the Storm. Keeping the exchange panel, Lin Jun looked at the expressions of the others. He almost laughed out loud. Everyone was drooling at the void. Clearly, they were dazzled by the endless treasures on the exchange panel. One could imagine that after reaching the Eye of the Storm, divine stones would be the lifeblood of every martial artist. In order to fight for divine stones, they would probably do anything. Lin Jun didn't continue looking. Instead, he chose to close his eyes and meditate. He once again comprehended the ethereal God bell. I should learn to decelerate time as soon as possible and buy more time for myself. This is what I should do. It wasn't easy to resist the temptation of treasures and focus on cultivation. At this moment, Lin Jun felt that his state of mind had improved. He was overjoyed. He would definitely gain something from this cultivation. Lin Jun began cultivating. The others were immersed in the temptation of treasures. They were almost unable to extricate themselves. In the blink of an eye, 6 days had passed. Following the long roar of the azure dragon, the dragon carriage slowed down. Lu Tianhua's carriage driver turned around and said to the people in the carriage, "Mr. Lu, everyone, we've arrived at the eye of the storm." "Oh, we've arrived so quickly." Lu Tianhua came back to his senses and shook his dizzy head. He felt a little ashamed. In the past few days, he had almost entered a state of selflessness. All day long, he was calculating what kind of treasures to fight for, who might compete with him, how powerful he would be after obtaining the treasures, and so on. Being immersed in treasures and forgetting to cultivate was not something a martial artist should do. He looked back and saw that Chun Yuan, Mu In, Arudi, and the others were still intoxicated. This made him feel a little better. It seemed that these people were not as good as him. However, when he saw Lin Jun, he found that Lin Jun's eyes were slightly closed. He was slowly exhaling a turbid breath. It was obvious that he had just recovered from his cultivation state. How is this possible? Lin Jun is only a martial artist in the three-flower realm. How can he resist the temptation of so many treasures? He even has time to cultivate now. Lu Tianhua was shocked. It seemed that he needed to reevaluate Lin Jun's strength. Now Lu Tianhua was a little embarrassed to face Lin Jun. He quickly turned around and pretended that he had also just finished cultivating. He did not want Lin Jun to laugh at him as a senior brother. However, it was precisely because of this that he neglected the fact that the turbid air that Lin Jun spat out was much slower than usual. This was extremely illogical. After coughing, Lu Tianhua turned around and clapped his hands. Clap, clap, clap. All right, junior brothers, we've arrived at our destination. We've now arrived at the eye of the storm. Wake up quickly. We're getting ready to get off the carriage. The remaining few people also woke up from the temptation of treasures and smiled embarrassedly. Hee. Looking at that God's inheritance crystal ball made me silly. I was actually daydreaming. I didn't expect to reach the eye of the storm so quickly. I'm really ashamed. The captain is still the best. I didn't even pay attention to it. Lu Tianhua heard Chun Yuan's words and waved his hand. I just woke up not long ago. Let's not talk about it. Although the treasures are good, they're not ours now. We can only hope to get what we want if we work together sincerely and earn more Godstones. All right, get ready to get off the carriage. Several people stood up and got off in a single file. After leaving the dragon carriage, everyone was shocked by the scene in front of them. The dragon carriage stopped at a small planet less than 100 kilometers in diameter. Standing on the planet, they could see the huge eye of the storm galaxy in the distance. It was like an ant standing in front of the sun. The eye of the storm galaxy was unimaginably huge. Pieces of light blue planet fragments that were as sharp as knives slowly rotated as if driven by inertia. From where they could see to the end of their vision, everything was filled with this blue color. It was boundless. The entire galaxy was spinning, and this spectacular scene was deeply shocking. On this small planet that they stopped at temporarily, many people were dumbfounded as they looked at the huge, rotating galaxy. Although the galaxy might be tens of millions of kilometers away, or even billions of kilometers away, the huge force that caused the heaven and earth to collapse and the universe to tremble still made people's hearts surge. What an eye of the storm. Lu Tianhua sighed softly. After everyone recovered from their shock, they looked ahead and saw that there seemed to be a temporary inspection station. The people from the surface races heading to the eye of the storm were lining up here. They were preparing to pass through the inspection station before they were allowed to enter the eye of the storm. Everyone, line up and follow me. After passing through the inspection station, we can explore this new world at any time. Lu Tianhua was the captain and walked at the front, followed by Chun Yuan and Arudi. Muin should be next, followed by Lin Jun. However, Muin stared blankly for a long time and didn't move. Lin Jun, who was behind him, saw that he didn't move and the other teams behind him were about to overtake him. He simply walked in front of him and pulled him. Senior brother Muin, it's time to go. Chapter 896. Seeing Lin Jun walking in front of him, Muin's face sank. Linjun, although your elixir pills are useful to the team, it doesn't mean that you can overstep them. Remember, you're the weakest in this team. Linjun looked left and right and saw a group of people walking over from behind. His eyes moved, and he snorted. Since senior brother Mu cares so much about the position, you can come over. Muin didn't stand on ceremony. He strode over and squeezed Linjun to the back. At this moment, the team from behind also walked over. Muin squeezed forward and pushed them to the side. The leader of the team looked over and stared at Muin like a knife. Kid, you're courting death. Muin felt chills all over his body when he was stared at by this person. At this moment, he felt that he would be squeezed to death at any time. Muin knew this person, but this person didn't know him. Almost all the martial artists in Sky Square City knew this person. He was a demigod, a king-ranked expert of Sky Square City, chasing Soul King. SS Senior. I. The huge gap in strength and the fear in his heart made Muin unable to speak a complete sentence. The chasing Soul King laughed strangely. It seems like you know me. Then, you should know why I'm called the Chasing Soul King. The souls of those who are targeted by me won't be left behind. Are you a warrior from the Sky Square City? How dare you squeeze me? It seems like you're tired of living. Chasing Soul King walked to the front of Muin. His tall body seemed to have shrouded Muin. He reached out a hand and clasped Muin's head. During this process, Muin was trembling all over. He was scared out of his wits. When Lu Tianhua and the others saw what was happening, they wanted to come over and take a look. However, Soul Chaser King wasn't them. Instead, he was accompanied by 2 demigods and 2 Godstone experts. When he looked over, Lu Tianhua and the others didn't dare to move. This was the difference in strength. In front of absolute strength, no one dared to act rashly. Muin felt that he had been fooled. If the soul-chasing king were to crush him here, it would be like crushing an ant. No one could save him. Only experts at the same level as the soul-chasing king would be able to change his mind. However, Muin didn't know such an expert, so no one would stand up for him. At this moment, he regretted arguing with Linjun. If he had observed carefully at that time, such a thing would not have happened. Senior Chasing Soul King, this person is in the same team as me. Can you give me some face and let him go? A voice sounded. The surrounding people who were watching the show all turned their gazes over. On the other hand, Muin was in disbelief because the person who pleaded for him was Linjun. Chun Yuan and the others revealed looks of panic. Although Linjun was a sacred expert, could he be compared to the Chasing Soul King? That was a titled emperor who had dominated the endless battlefields. What kind of person had he not seen before? He might not give Linjun face. However, no one expected Soul Chasing King to reveal a bright smile when he turned around and saw Linjun. Huh, so it's Brother Lin. I didn't see you just now. Brother Lin, you should have said so earlier. Since he's your teammate, then today's matter is a misunderstanding. As he spoke, Soul Chasing King raised his hand and pushed Muin away. He clapped his hands and came to Linjun's side. He said, Brother, it's all thanks to you last time. That divine crystal just happens to be compatible with my attributes. After this storm ends, I'll advance to become a god. When the time comes, I'll definitely repay your kindness. Don't say that. Brother, you paid for it too. No, Wu Qing spent 7 billion to buy one. I only spent 6 billion. I still made a profit. Moreover, our attributes are compatible. Brother, you helped me in my hour of need and even helped me defeat Wu Qing once. You helped me vent my anger. I won't forget this. Soul Chasing King patted Linjun's shoulder. This isn't the place to talk. If we can meet in the eye of the storm in the future, let's have a good talk. Linjun nodded in agreement. Soul Chasing King turned around and faced Muin. Rascal, today, I'll spare your dog life on account of Brother Linjun. Next time, remember to open your eyes. There are countless people here who can easily crush you to death. Do you understand? As he spoke, he really pinched Muin's cheeks. Muin's cheeks hurt, but he still had to nod and smile. He didn't even dare to show his anger. All right, brother, I'm leaving. If you have any questions, feel free to look for me. The 2 demigods and 2 godstones with soul-chasing king also smiled and bid farewell to Linjun before walking to the front. There were many people queuing up in front. When they saw soul-chasing king and the others, they all smiled and made way. These people actually passed through without any obstructions. At this moment, Lu Tianhua and the others came to Linjun's side. Lu Tianhua didn't even look at Muon. Instead, he said to Linjun, "Junior brother, you actually know senior soul-chasing king? We've interacted before. That's great. Soul-chasing king is a conferred emperor. If you encounter any danger in the eye of the storm, you can even mention his name. Many people will give you face." Linjun smiled and said, "It's best if you don't. And right? It's better to keep a low profile." Lu Tianhua finished and looked at Muan, who had a terrible expression. "What's wrong with you?" If Linjun didn't know soul-chasing king, our team might have been implicated by you. As a martial artist, don't you know the basic rules of respecting the strong? Muan lowered his head and didn't say anything. He looked extremely depressed. Lu Tianhua didn't say much as he continued to queue up with the others. After queuing for more than an hour, they finally arrived at the inspection entrance. The so-called inspection was to verify their identities and ensure that they were qualified to enter the eye of the storm. This was to prevent other martial artists from sneaking in. When they arrived at the inspection entrance, the inspectors carefully verified their identities. The 5 of them could enter the eye of the storm, but other intelligent life forms couldn't casually enter. For example, Linjun's 9-headed lion and 2-headed demonic dragon were forbidden to leave Linjun's inner world during this period. This was to prevent people from bringing a large number of other life forms into the eye of the storm. Even Lu Tianhua's dragon chariot driver was forbidden to leave Lu Tianhua's inner world. All right, team from Sky Square City, you may proceed to the eye of the storm. But before you enter, I have to remind you that if you find a divine stone and want to exchange for treasures, you need to place the divine stone in your inner world and take it out after it has a trace of your world energy. Then, you can exchange for the required treasures on the exchange panel. God's emissary will find your location based on your world energy and then exchange with you. You need to take out as many divine stones as you need. Do you understand? The few of them nodded in succession, indicating that they understood. Also, when you encounter an endless race, you can also gain points by fighting, which can increase your start rate. Therefore, the endless battlefield encourages fighting, but killing the surface races won't give you any points. After Lin Jun and the others expressed their understanding, they quickly passed the inspection and passed through the inspection entrance. After passing through the inspection entrance, there was a suspended bridge in front of them. It was hundreds of meters long, and the bridge head was pointing towards the eye of the storm. The storm that was still slowly rotating had stopped, and they could now enter the eye of the storm. Stepping on the bridge head, Lu Tianhua summoned the Azure Dragon Chariot, and everyone boarded. Without a driver, Lu Tianhua personally drove the chariot. "Let's go." The Azure Dragon roared again, shook its head and wagged its tail, and rushed towards the eye of the storm galaxy. This time, the flight took almost a day, and they gradually entered the eye of the storm galaxy. Looking out of the window, there were light blue fragments floating everywhere. After losing the wind, these things were floating in the air. When the dragon chariot moved, they had to carefully avoid them. Occasionally, they would come across a planet that looked fragmented, like a damaged rubber ball. It was unknown what kind of power had destroyed it. On the dragon chariot, Lu Tianhua was looking at the map. "I've already checked the terrain before we came. Our goal is the planetary cemetery. It's a large-scale battlefield, and it's just right for us to explore. Even if there are opponents, they should be about the same strength as us. If we can survive in the planetary cemetery, we didn't come to the eye of the storm in vain. Can you determine the specific location of the planetary cemetery?" "I can. According to our current coordinates, the planetary cemetery is 50,000 light-years to the west, and the stagger continent is 80,000 light-years to the east. There are a few teleportation coordinates along the way. I'll send them to you later." Arudi asked, "What about the Valley of Wind and Thunder?" "The Valley of Wind and Thunder is about 100,000 light-years away. These 3 places are the 3 main points of the war. The planetary cemetery is the largest and has the highest death toll. The crisscross continent is the battlefield for the elites, and the Valley of Wind and Thunder is the final battlefield. Are there god stones in other places? Yes, but relatively few. Let's pay attention to some along the way. If everything goes well, we'll be able to reach the planetary cemetery in about a year. Then, good days will come. Hearing that there might be god stones in other places, the few of them looked outside the chariot. Boss, if we walk in the chariot, we'll miss the god stones even if they're on the road. How about this? The 5 of us will distance ourselves a little and search bit by bit. This way, we won't miss the god stones when we encounter them. Hearing Chen Yuan's words, Lu Tianhua nodded. After looking at the list of treasures, everyone couldn't wait to find the god stones immediately. 3 god stones could be exchanged for a heavenly spirit fruit. If this fruit was sold in the outside world, it would probably be worth millions or even tens of millions. Okay, since no one has any objections, let's start now. Chapter 897. The few of them alighted from the dragon chariot and looked ahead. There's a mess of planets and meteorites ahead. They did not look like the regular starry sky. Instead, they were crowded together in a disorderly manner. It was like a fragmented continent. This place looks messy. It's like this. The great battle in the eye of the storm disrupted everything, especially the spatial storm at the end. The energy of the stars was lost in the storm. After a few million years, the stars have all died. Without the gravitational force of the stars, this place is a complete mess. The stars died? Won't they explode and form a black hole? Chen Yuan asked. Lu Tianhua shook his head. These stars have lost all their energy and died. It's like the euthanasia of humans. They'll die without a sound. There won't be an explosion. Looks like this is a barren land of death. Let's go take a look. I think there are many competitors. Streams of light shot forward. They were the martial artists who had entered the eye of the storm. Let's go. Remember, we're here for wealth, not to fight. Try to avoid fighting. Lu Tianhua said. The few of them moved forward quickly toward the fragmented region ahead. More than 100 million kilometers away from Lin Zhen and the others, a white-haired martial artist was moving forward slowly. This person wore white clothes and a white robe. His hair was also snow white. He carried a long sword that seemed to be condensed from ice on his back. This person was the Heartless King whom Lin Zhen had met at the auction house. He stopped in the starry sky. The Heartless King took out a map and looked at it. The cross continent. That's my training ground. He drew his ice sword and slashed it across. The space was torn apart. The Heartless King flashed and entered the space tear. It was a skill similar to the all-heaven escape method. In the next instant, he appeared in the starry sky of the cross continent. Looking at the continents that stretched across the horizon and the layers of planets, the Heartless King closed his eyes slightly. If I had the ethereal divine clock, my cultivation progress would have been greatly improved. What a pity. Lin Zhen, I'll take the divine clock back. Don't even think about escaping. The Heartless King opened the exchange panel and looked at the 2 items on it. One was a small golden trumpet called the human trumpet. The other was a small silver trumpet called the devil trumpet. Each loudspeaker was sold for 20 god stones. This kind of loudspeaker didn't have any effect on cultivation, nor did it have any destructive power. Its only use was to let the corresponding race within the eye of the storm hear the announcement. It was like a full-screen speech in an online game. Everyone could hear what the speaker said. It was similar to an advertisement. The Heartless King's plan was simple. First, he needed to collect 20 godstones and exchange them for a golden megaphone, allowing all the warriors on the ground to hear him speak. He wanted to capture Lin Zhen and reward him handsomely. As long as he could capture Lin Zhen and take back the Misty Divine Bell, even if he had to pay a price of a few hundred or a few thousand divine stones, it would be worth it. The Misty God Bell could give him a large amount of time, and it was the key to him quickly becoming a god. Lin Zhen, just you wait. When I get enough divine stones, it will be the time of your death. Turning into a stream of light, Heartless King flew into the crisscross continent. I found one. An excited cheer came from afar, but it wasn't from Lin Zhen's team. Not far away, Lu Tianhua raised his head and revealed an envious expression. I found one here, ha ha ha. Another voice came. These sporadic shouts were like stimulants, making everyone full of energy. Lin Jun occasionally looked at his teammates, but they still didn't find anything. He lowered his head and used his spiritual power to explore. Lin Jun suddenly stopped. In a rocky area, Lin Jun found a piece of light covered by soil. This feeling was very familiar. Lin Jun still had 3 god stones, and he would occasionally play with them. He immediately raised his hand and released a gravitational force. Whoosh! A god stone flew out from the soil and landed in Lin Jun's hand. I got the first one. Lin Jun raised a finger. Lu Tianhua and the others cheered excitedly and even ran to Lin Jun to take a look. You really found a god stone. Not bad, kid. Look. My research on the Eye of the Storm didn't go to waste. I already knew that there would be god stones in this area. Even if the Eye of the Storm had opened twice, it's impossible to find all the god stones. Muin looked at the god stone in Lin Jun's hand and suddenly said, according to our distribution rules, we have to split the god stones equally. Shouldn't the first god stone be given to the leader? Lu Tianhua was about to wave his hand and decline when Muin continued. Leader, nothing can be accomplished without rules. We have already agreed on the distribution of god stones. There are 5 of us, and the distribution ratio is 3. 2-2. 2-2. Other than you taking 3, the 4 of us will each take 2. If you don't take yours first, the 4 of us won't be able to take the rest. Lu Tianhua was a little embarrassed. After all, the god stone was found by Lin Jun, and he didn't contribute much. Instead, Lin Jun took the initiative and said, Leader, take it. We have already agreed on it. All right, I'll take it. Lu Tianhua nodded and carefully took the god stone. He looked at it fondly for a long time before storing it in his inner world. Continue to search. If we can get 100,000 god stones before the Eye of the Storm ends, we'll exchange for the god's inheritance crystal ball. Everyone had their own goals, and they were all full of energy at this time. Lin Jun handed over the god stone and walked around casually. However, his mental strength covered every inch of the surroundings. There's another one. Soon, Lin Jun had a second harvest. He found another god stone from a crack in a rock. Another cultivator nearby discovered it a second later than Lin Jun, but he was closer to Lin Jun. Just as he was about to snatch it, Lin Jun raised his hand and pulled the god stone into his hand. The Celestial Realm warrior glared at Lin Jun, but he didn't say anything because he wanted to make a fortune. However, he subconsciously distanced himself from Lin Jun. Since he couldn't snatch the god stone from Lin Jun, it was better to avoid him. How about the second one? Lin Jun raised 2 fingers, and a few people ran over. After being happy for a while, they handed the second god stone to Chen Yuan. Initially, he thought that the others would be able to find something. However, for some reason, after 3 hours, only Lin Jun managed to find 2. In the 4th hour, Lin Jun found the 3rd god stone. A few of them looked a little embarrassed as they handed the divine stone to Arudi. I also have a god stone. Thank you, junior brother Lin. Lin Jun nodded and didn't say anything. He continued to search hard. A whole day passed, and the team gathered together to tally up the day's harvest. On this day, the 5 people in the team searched with all their might and found a total of 10 god stones. Among them, Lin Jun found 5, Lu Tianhua and Chen Yuan found 2 each. Arudi found 1, and Muin found nothing. Lin Jun's mental strength was strong, and he had the gravity in his hand. His speed was fast, and his speed was unparalleled. The 4 of them added together had the same harvest as Lin Jun. Lin Jun, good job. Chen Yuan patted Lin Jun's shoulder happily. Lin Jun weighed the god stone in his hand and said with a smile, It's nothing. We'll have more tomorrow. The 10 god stones were distributed according to order. Everyone got 2. The next god stone was found, and it still belonged to Lu Tianhua. Lu Tianhua and the others felt that Lin Jun was at a disadvantage, but the rules were set, so no one said anything. When it was time to rest, Lin Jun sat alone to the side and began to adjust his breathing. Only Lin Jun's clone was involved in the search. His main body was now in the clone's internal world, concentrating on cultivating the ethereal divine clock. The comprehension of double-time deceleration gave Lin Jun more time to cultivate. One day in the outside world was 2 days in Lin Jun. During these 2 days, he was cultivating and accelerating time. In front of him, an orchid with a longer flowering period was in full bloom. Lin Jun deduced and calculated over and over again in his heart. According to his judgment, it would take about 20 days to comprehend triple time acceleration. 20 days was only 10 days for him at the moment. It would take about a month for him to comprehend triple time acceleration. A month was only 15 days for Lin Jun. 25 days. After 25 days, my triple time acceleration will be complete. At that time, I'll have more time to cultivate. At that time, I'll almost be able to enter the middle stage of the three-flower realm. I can't let this small amount of godstones affect my cultivation. As he calculated in his heart, his cultivation speed did not slow down at all. On the first day, the team obtained 10 godstones. On the second day, they obtained 12 godstones. On the third day, they obtained 11 godstones. On the fourth day, they obtained another 10 godstones. It was not easy to find too many godstones in the periphery of the eye of the storm. Lin Jun only received about 2 godstones a day. On the contrary, in terms of efficiency, Lin Jun was the one who found the most. No one in the team said anything about this matter. Now that Lin Jun was their biggest source of income, they thought that it was natural for them to obtain more godstones for protecting Lin Jun. However, sometimes Qin Yuan would look at Lin Jun with guilt. Junior brother Lin, I invited you to join the team out of kindness. But now, you've lost a lot of money. I'm really sorry. How about I give you an extra godstone every day for my income? Lin Jun patted Qin Yuan on the shoulder. Senior brother Chun, you don't need to say such things. Thank you for your consideration, but I have my own ideas. Qin Yuan nodded, but it was difficult to reduce the guilt on his face. In the blink of an eye, 20 days passed. Chapter 898. Master, I need you to exchange something for me. Hearing Crazy's call, Lin Jun froze for a moment. Crazy had never taken the initiative to ask for anything. What do you want? I need a legacy crystal ball. Lin Jun immediately opened the legacy crystal ball. There were many legacy crystal balls. Among them, the Godstone realm required 500 Godstones to exchange. The Demigod realm required 1,000 Godstones. The Regal realm, Hall of the Exalted, and so on required even more Godstones. Crazy, what do you want the legacy crystal ball for? Master, the legacy crystal ball contains the memories of that martial artist's AI. I feel like I'm about to level up. If I continue to absorb new knowledge, I'll be able to provide more help to you. I can even transform. Oh, there are such benefits? But Crazy, I don't have a way to exchange for them yet. The lowest Godstone realm legacy crystal ball requires 500 Godstones each. I have a way to speed up the collection of Godstones. You can exchange for heavenly spirit fruits on the page. The more the better. Now exchange for as many as you can. Although Lin Jun was puzzled, he still followed Crazy's request and exchanged for 12 heavenly spirit fruits. After exchanging, Lin Jun only had 1 Godstone left. Master, you might not know this, but the starfruit tree's cloud scraper vine in your inner world has grown very large. It's absorbing the nutrients of the starfruit tree and the dark star. Its roots have dug into the dark star. If you don't control it, your dark star will be sucked dry by the cloud scraper vine within 100 years. Lin Jun was shocked. He didn't need star crystals now, so he hadn't paid attention to the starfruit tree. Even if he did, he would only feel that the starfruit tree and the cloud scraper vine had grown very large. His mental power immediately entered the dark star space. Sure enough, the cloud scraper vine had grown very large. The starfruit tree, which was nearly 10,000 meters tall, had been coiled several times by the cloud scraper vine. Although it was suppressing the growth of the starfruit tree, it was constantly absorbing star crystals and other things. It was growing larger and larger. It was estimated to be about 100,000 meters long. Furthermore, Lin Jun made another discovery. The herbs around the stellar fruit tree seemed to have withered. The plants seemed to be on the verge of death. My goodness, how did this cloud scraper tongue become like this? The cloud scraper vine is meant to devour and absorb. Master wrapped it around the starfruit tree, and it will automatically absorb everything with energy. Star crystals, herbs, metals, and so on. It will absorb everything. Even if it can't absorb some things temporarily, it will draw them to its side. If you don't believe me, you can pull out the cloud scraper vine and take a look. There are definitely countless things on it. Lin Jun didn't need to pull it out. He probed it with his spiritual power and immediately saw the clues. The dark star was also a planet. Naturally, there would be a lot of metals, minerals, and even gems inside the planet. There was a layer hanging on the cloud scraper vine. This fellow, can it still be called the cloud scraper tongue? It's simply a treasure-seeking vine. That's right. From now on, it should be called the treasure-hunting tongue. However, it's not strong enough yet. Master needs to devour the excess nutrients from the treasure-scraping tongue. It can also help Master increase his astral power and dissolve the effects of the medicine. You can do that. That's right. After absorbing the nutrients from the treasure-scraping tongue, I believe Master will be able to enter the mid-stage of the three-flower realm. Lin Jun was overjoyed. Chris had given him a good suggestion. After Little Melon and Bai Susu left, Lin Jun's dissolution of the medicine became a problem again. If he couldn't quickly dissolve the medicine, he wouldn't be able to level up quickly. In the eye of the storm, it was difficult to survive without enough strength. The reason why Lin Jun was still with Lu Tianhua's group was because he wasn't strong enough. If the treasure-scraping tongue could dissolve the medicine, then Lin Jun's leveling speed would definitely soar. I can indeed devour the nutrients from the treasure-scraping tongue, but won't that cause it to die? This is the reason why I asked Master to exchange for the heavenly spirit fruit. The heavenly spirit fruit can completely restore all the strength of a living being. It's the same for humans, animals, and plants. It's the same for astral power, physical strength, spiritual power, and nutrition. After the treasure-scraping tongue absorbs a heavenly spirit fruit, it will quickly recover to its original state. It can even grow and evolve again. Speaking of this, Chris suddenly laughed. The more times the treasure-scraping tongue evolves, the bigger it grows. Master can find a good place and plant the treasure-scraping tongue. This guy will immediately absorb all the valuable things in that place, such as some spiritual treasures buried deep underground, such as God stones. Hearing this, Lin Jun's eyes suddenly lit up. You could do that. That's right. When the time comes, Master won't even need to personally look for God stones. The treasure-scraping tongue will definitely take advantage of every opportunity to absorb all the treasures in the soil. Master can rest assured and collect the spoils of war. Hearing Chris's suggestion, Lin Jun almost immediately made up his mind. Chris was right. This was what he should do. Previously, he thought that he didn't have the ability to find treasures. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to exchange for anything good just by searching. Besides, Lin Jun still wanted to cultivate and didn't have much time. With the treasure-scraping tongue, it was definitely like cheating. It would save Lin Jun a lot of time and energy. There's just one more problem. I'm with my teammates now. I'm afraid this isn't appropriate. Lin Jun didn't care about dozens of God stones, but if it was too many, he couldn't ignore it. Even if he didn't exchange the God stones for items, he could keep them in the future and use them when he entered the divine state. No amount was too much. Master, I don't think such a problem is a problem at all. Among your teammates, other than Qin Yuan, who still treats you as a friend, the rest of them are just using each other. Find a chance to get rid of them. You have such a cheat, so it's not suitable for you to team up with anyone. Find a place with good feng shui, and you'll soon be rich. Chris's voice was very loud. As an artificial life, she was completely thinking for Lin Jun. She was only thinking from the perspective that was most beneficial to Lin Jun. Lin Jun nodded slightly. You're right. Wait for a while. I'll leave after my 3 times time deceleration is completed. Lin Jun didn't dwell on this issue for too long. He listened to Chris's suggestion and entered his inner world. Seeing the treasure-scraping tongue that was hundreds of thousands of meters long, Lin Jun was secretly shocked. The starfruit tree's light was dim, and there weren't many star crystals left. The treasure-scraping tongue had absorbed almost all the nutrients of the huge fruit tree. If it weren't for Chris's reminder, the treasure-scraping tongue would have destroyed his star fruit tree and even his dark star. That would have been a huge loss. Master, I have another suggestion. What suggestion? The treasure-scraping tongue has the ability to devour. You're a black hole beast, so you can devour everything. You can try to devour the treasure-scraping tongue's nutrients and then feed it with your blood. The two of you can form a cycle. The treasure-scraping tongue has absorbed too many star crystals and already has a certain level of spirituality. If you can form a cycle with it, you can even make the treasure-scraping tongue a part of your body and become another big trump card of yours. Lin Jun immediately understood what Chris meant. This was equivalent to raising a spiritual pet. It was similar to Xiao and Wan's bloodline, but this spiritual pet had become a plant. Okay, let me deal with the outside world first. I'll give it a try. Lin Jun, how come we only found 3 divine stones today? Moon was in a bad mood today. The team had only obtained 8 divine stones today. Lu Tianhua, Chen Yuan, and Arudi had each obtained 2 divine stones, while he and Lin Jun had only obtained 1. Usually, Lin Jun would receive 5 divine stones. Since he had found fewer divine stones today, his share had also decreased. Even if you get 1 more divine stone, I can get 1 more. I still want to exchange for the dazzling gold body tempering art. If you continue like this, I'm afraid the body tempering art will be taken away by others. Hearing Muin's complaints, Lin Jun sneered. Since you want to exchange so much, why don't you find more? You'll never get what you want if you rely on others. What did you say? Although your ability to find divine stones is not bad, your realm is low. If you didn't stay in our team, would you be able to survive in the eye of the storm? I'm afraid you would have been killed by others. Since senior brother Mu thinks that I'm a burden, you can suggest to the captain to let me leave the team and see if I'll be killed by others. You, Lin Jun, don't think that you can behave atrociously in front of me just because you know the soul-chasing king. You and the soul-chasing king are just acquaintances. Do you think he can protect you forever? If you really piss me off, it won't be good for you. Of course, Muin wouldn't tell Lu Tianhua that no one in the team could leave Lin Jun. Lu Tianhua wouldn't agree, and Muin didn't want Lin Jun to leave either. However, Lin Jun was still a troublemaker. Muin flew into a rage out of humiliation and used force to threaten him. Lin Jun glanced at Muon. Late-stage divine realm. Muon's star power exceeded 400 million. After all, there was a difference of 2 realms. With a trace of coldness in his eyes, Lin Jun said, "You're not going to say it? Then I'll talk to the captain myself." Lin Jun didn't care about Muin at all and went to Lu Tianhua's side. "Captain, I'm tired. I need a rest for 2 days." Lu Tianhua heard the conversation between the two very clearly, but his heart was also very conflicted. Emotionally, he and Muin had known each other for tens of thousands of years. Of course, he was much closer to Muin than to Lin Jun. However, Muin was indeed a little unreasonable in this matter. If it was someone else, Lu Tianhua would definitely stand on Muin's side without hesitation. However, Lin Jun was currently the main force in finding divine stones. Lu Tianhua couldn't say much. Chapter 899. Lin Jun and Lu Tianhua asked for 2 days of rest before leaving the team. Lu Tianhua asked Lin Jun not to go too far, but Lin Jun did not intend to listen to him at all. The cloud vine was a big guy, and it would definitely cause a lot of commotion when it cultivated. Staying on this ruined land would definitely expose him. Lin Jun directly flew away, flying to a faraway meteorite that had already been scouted. Behind him, Lu Tianhua and the others saw that Lin Jun had gone deep into the starry sky and returned to the rear. Lu Tianhua was still worried that Lin Jun would leave them behind and search for the divine stones alone. Since he had gone to the rear, there was nothing to worry about. However, he was still not at ease and said to Muin, "Go check on Lin Jun's situation from time to time and see if he has left the meteorite." "Captain, don't worry. There's no way he can leave us alone. Damn it, he's enjoying our care and safety, yet he still dares to complain. If you're so capable, why don't you go find the soul-chasing king and the others? See if they're willing to take you in." Lu Tianhua frowned slightly. Lower your voice. Lin Jun can be considered to have contributed to us. Moreover, Chen Yuan is still here, and their relationship is not bad. Mu En curled his lips and did not say anything else, continuing to search for the divine stones. After Lin Jun landed on the back of the meteorite, his figure flickered and a clone appeared. The clone sat cross-legged on the meteorite and cultivated, replacing the main body to continue comprehending the shadowless steps stone tablet. Lin Jun immediately called out to Chris. Chris, check the map of the Eye of the Storm and find the most suitable place for me to go. Calculate the approximate location. Each of them had a copy of the map of the Eye of the Storm, and it was just right for them to use now. Chris immediately checked it. Master, the way you enter the Eye of the Storm is the transit station of the 76th asteroid. This side is where the surface races are heading, and the opposite side is where the endless races are heading. If you want to find a good place to cultivate, I suggest you go east or west. Lin Jun pondered for a moment. The east should be the Stagger Continent, and the west should be the planetary graveyard, right? That's right. Right now, these people are searching for divine stones on this small battlefield. When there is nothing left to find here, they will continue to head in these two directions. Those are the important production areas of divine stones. Will there be anyone in those two places now? There should be, Master. Everyone who came to the Eye of the Storm this time is an expert. Your strength doesn't even reach the middle level here. There are also many people who know how to use escape techniques. There must be experts who use escape techniques to go directly to the two core areas. Then, Crazy changed the topic. I suggest that Master go to the planetary graveyard first. It's very big. Master can definitely find a safe place to cultivate first. If you can get a good place, Master will be in the lead everywhere. All right, then let's go to the planetary cemetery. Hopefully, the chaotic spatial coordinates here won't affect us too much. Lin Jun checked the coordinates, but he wasn't sure. His Luotian escape art hadn't been cultivated to the great success stage, so he wasn't sure where he would land if he passed through the space turbulence. He could only hope that it wouldn't be too far off. He separated his hands and attacked at the speed of light. Spatial tear. With a flash, Lin Jun entered the spatial tear. The impact of the incoming space turbulence forced Lin Jun to take a few steps back. Once again, Lin Jun walked forward according to the planned coordinates for a while against the turbulence. Then, he felt that there was a deviation in his actions. But even if there was a deviation, he had to bite the bullet and continue. Even if he couldn't go to the planetary graveyard, any random place would be much better than here. After separating his hands again and tearing the space apart, the scenery in front of Lin Jun changed. It was just a void a moment ago, but now he had arrived on a continent. Beneath his feet was hard sand with a dark golden luster. It was abnormally hard to step on. Good heavens, the hardness of this sand is comparable to an eternal crystal. I've been in Sky City for so long, but I've never seen such a planet or continent. Where am I? Chris, hurry up and analyze it for me. Crazy quickly replied. Master, how long did you walk when you entered the spatial tear? I didn't calculate it clearly. I should have gone in the wrong direction. In order to resist the space turbulence, I seem to have walked a long way, and the direction was also a little wrong. It's not just wrong. You're simply wrong. You entered the Eye of the Storm in the north, and this is the south. You should have arrived at the territory of the endless race. Lin Jun was stunned when he heard that. I actually came here. That's right. You'd better find a place to cultivate. Don't walk around. If you encounter the martial artists of the endless race, you'll be in danger. Lin Jun nodded. Safety was the priority here. However, tearing the space apart required a lot of energy, and he couldn't use it continuously. He needed to find a place to rest and cultivate. I see that very few people come to this continent under my feet. There should be divine stones here. Instead of looking for them everywhere, it's better to be at ease and stay here. That's fine too. Master, you can start now. Find a hidden place to stay and start immediately. Lin Jun nodded and looked around. There were dark red soil everywhere, and there were a few mounds in the distance. He immediately went to the back of the mound and took out the Imperial Sky God Sword. Huh, A beam of sword light descended and the ground cracked under Lin Jun's attack. Lin Jun immediately leaped into the ground and went underground. The quicksand on the ground fell, and the ground quickly returned to its original state. After hiding underground, Lin Jun immediately entered the world in his body. Arriving in front of the huge cloud scraper vine, Lin Jun's mind moved, and the soil in the dark star space began to roll. In the world in his body, the master was the god here. He could move the mountains and rivers at will, and make the rivers flow backward. Lin Jun's mind moved, and the soil began to roll, forcefully pushing out the cloud scraper vine that was buried deep in the soil. The roots of the cloud scraper vine seemed to run through the entire dark star. If not for the fact that Lin Jun was the master of the dark star, it would have been impossible for this vine to be pulled out. Even so, it took a full hour for the cloud scraper vine to completely reveal its true body. Master, the length of the cloud scraper vine has been calculated. It is 150,000 meters long. It has a diameter of 50 meters. Good fellow, if you hadn't discovered it, this fellow would have caused a disaster for me. After the cloud scraper vine was pulled out, the dark star space returned to its original state. As a master of the dark star space, Lin Jun could feel that the dark star space was declining. However, the cloud scraper vine was gone, and its aura was slowly recovering. There was also the stellar fruit tree. Its leaves were about to wither, and now it was gradually turning green. Lin Jun could even see a bit of star crystal quietly appearing. The stellar fruit tree was also coming to life. Lin Jun grabbed the cloud scraper vine and used his mental power to pull it into the sky. It was hundreds of thousands of meters long and directly went into the starry sky of his inner world. Master, use your fastest sword to cut open the surface of the cloud scraper vine and absorb the juice inside. It is a great tonic and can also dissolve the medicinal effects of the pill poison in your body. Okay. Lin Jun picked up the Imperial Sky God sword and waved it twice. Suddenly, he slashed out. A bolt of lightning descended, and the cloud scraper vine was immediately cut open from the middle. However, it was not cut open. Only the surface was cut open, and a dark green liquid filled with vitality gushed out like a river. Black hole beast transformation. Lin Jun twisted his body in the air and transformed into a huge black hole beast. He immediately sucked down the juice of the cloud scraper vine fiercely. He controlled the power of the black hole to not devour the cloud scraper vine. The death ripple only reached the place where the juice was. After this mouthful of juice entered his stomach, Lin Jun's eyes instantly lit up like two searchlights. Hiss! Roar! The medicinal effects of the pill poison that had been suppressed in his body were actually dissolved by the juice at this moment. It's done. Master, don't be in a hurry to advance to the mid-stage of the three-flower realm. Put a heavenly spirit fruit in the cloud scraper vine, and then inject your blood into it so that it can quickly recover its strength. Whether or not the cloud scraper vine can evolve to the sacred level and become a part of you, and a treasure hunting vine will depend on this moment. Understood. Lin Jun did not hesitate at all. He immediately put a heavenly spirit fruit into the wound of the cloud scraper vine. The heavenly spirit fruit was worthy of being a god's treasure. Its powerful vitality immediately allowed the cloud scraper vine to recover from its injuries. The huge wound was healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Lin Jun bit his finger again and injected his blood into the cloud scraper vine. Master, you can meditate and cultivate now. Take note that you can also use those heavenly spirit fruits. When you feel that you have lost too much blood and can't hold on any longer, take a heavenly spirit fruit. When the cloud scraper vine changes color completely, it will be a part of you. I hope you can succeed in one try. Lin Jun nodded and let his blood flow into the cloud scraper vine. Lin Jun was a black hole beast with a super godly body. The blood in his body was very dense. A drop of blood would turn the cloud scraper vine a dozen meters long dark red. However, the cloud scraper vine was hundreds of thousands of meters long. It needed at least 10,000 drops of Lin Jun's blood. Drop by drop, the cloud scraper vine's color began to change. Lin Jun was in the sky. The cloud scraper vine was connecting the sky to the earth. It was like a line soaked in blood that was changing from top to bottom. Phew, this is so tiring. Blood flowed down like water. Lin Jun felt that he was gradually getting dizzy. Even with his immortal spirit body's powerful recovery ability, he could not withstand the cloud scraper vine's devouring. After a full hour, half of the cloud scraper vine was completely red. Lin Jun finally could not take it anymore. If this continued, he would be sucked dry by the cloud scraper vine. However, he was already riding a tiger and could not back down. He took out a heavenly spirit fruit and swallowed it. Powerful spirit energy rose from his dantian. Lin Jun's lost blood energy was instantly replenished. His condition was better than ever. Chapter 900. After eating the heavenly spirit fruit, Lin Jun's condition was completely restored. The cloud scraper vine was once again replenished with new blood. Its color rapidly turned red and dark. Finally, when Lin Jun felt dizzy and was about to collapse, the cloud scraper vine had finally finished absorbing. The juice that it had lost was completely replaced by Lin Jun's blood. This caused it to undergo an earth-shattering change. Lin Jun's immortal spirit body blood caused the cloud scraper vine's tenacity to instantly increase by 100 times. Its mass, weight, density, all of it received a massive increase. Lin Jun used his mental strength to drive the cloud scraper vine. He felt the burden on his mental strength become heavier. This cloud scraper vine was at least 10 times heavier. Its internal atomic structure began to split and recombine, and its cells constantly split apart. Lin Jun's mind was dizzy. He felt as if he couldn't bear the weight of the brand new cloud scraper vine. I can't hold on any longer. I need to land and rest. Otherwise, I might become the first martial artist to die from excessive blood loss. Just as Lin Jun was about to land, the pressure on his mind suddenly lightened. The weight of the cloud scraper vine seemed to disappear. This vine that ran through the heavens and earth and was hundreds of thousands of meters long suddenly became as light as a feather. He couldn't feel its weight at all. It recognized a master. Lin Jun's dizzy mind immediately cleared up and his mind was roused. After 2 blood transfusions, the cloud scraper vine finally possessed a certain level of spirituality and successfully recognized a master. It was extremely difficult for plant life forms to develop spirituality. Plants were emotionless life forms. Normally, they would only act according to their instincts. If they wanted to develop spirituality, they would need a massive lucky chance. This cloud scraper vine could be said to be blessed by the heavens. It had absorbed star crystals and medicinal efficacies on the dark star and already possessed a certain level of spirituality. In addition, after Lin Jun's massive blood transfusion, it had actually developed spirituality and become a sentient life form. The cloud scraper vine twisted and turned between the heavens and earth. The scene was incomparably spectacular. It was like an inconceivably large snake winding around Lin Jun. It wasn't trying to kill him, but was trying to get close to him. What a fellow. It actually has a certain level of spirituality. Soon Lin Jun's line of sight was completely covered by the cloud scraper vine. Circles after circles of it blocked out all light. If only it could be smaller. Just as Lin Jun was thinking this, he did not expect that the cloud scraper tongue would really become smaller. It shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye, and soon, this massive vine that was over 100,000 meters long had turned into a thick rope that was over a dozen meters long. Lin Jun waved his hand, and the cloud scraper vine landed in his hand. Holding the cloud scraper vine, Lin Jun was surprised to find that the actual weight of this cloud scraper vine was almost comparable to a small planet. At the very least, a planet like the moon was definitely not as heavy as the cloud scraper tongue. Moreover, its elasticity and toughness had already exceeded Lin Jun's imagination. Now, if he wanted to change the blood of the cloud scraper vine again, it would definitely not be easy to cut it open. Master, congratulations. Your cloud scraper vine has evolved for the first time. After your body recovers, you can continue to change the cloud scraper vine's blood and turn it into a super treasure. It can still evolve? Lin Jun was pleasantly surprised. Yes, the cloud scraper vine has always had a devouring attribute. Now that it has received your black hole beast blood, its essence has undergone an earth-shattering change. Let me put it this way. The cloud scraper vine will have the same level of power as your blood. Its future is almost limitless, but for its next evolution, it will need blood with a stronger life force. In other words, if you want it to evolve again, you will need to enter the mid-level of the three-flower realm. Lin Jun nodded. That's not a problem. I will enter the mid-level of the three-flower realm soon. When Master enters the mid-level of the three-flower realm, this cloud scraper vine will also have the power of the mid-level of the three-flower realm. In fact, it has many other functions, such as being able to turn into a close-fitting armor or even be used for attack. It has so many uses. Yes, but its greatest use is to find treasures. Your cloud scraper vine can now be called a treasure hunting vine. You can try to let it go underground to search for treasures. Lin Jun raised his hand, and the treasure hunting vine coiled around his arm like a dark red snake. Go ahead and search underground. Let's see if you can really bring me some surprises. It won't be a waste of my 2 blood transfusions to feed you. The treasure hunting vine seemed to be able to understand Lin Jun's words. Its snake-like body wriggled a little and burrowed into the sand. Lin Jun could clearly feel its presence. He only saw the treasure hunting vine crawling on the ground and growing bigger and bigger. The bigger the vine, the more powerful it would be to search for treasures. I wonder if I can attach my mind power to it. Lin Jun thought so and did so. He realized that he could really attach his spiritual power to it. It was as if he was walking underground. Unlike the main body, the treasure hunting vine had a strong sense of smell and could easily sense valuable things. Smack! As the treasure hunting vine grew bigger, a divine stone was sucked out of the ground and stuck to the vine. Ah, it actually works. I found a divine stone just like that. Lin Jun's eyes lit up, but before he could be surprised, a second divine stone stuck to the vine. As expected, the treasure hunting vine can find treasures in the ground. And this is in the planet graveyard or the crisscross continent. It's just an ordinary continent, and I've already found such a treasure. I really found a treasure this time. The treasure hunting vine was like a giant moving magnet. All the treasures were metal, and they were quickly attracted to it. It wasn't just the divine stones. There were also all kinds of strange metals. They were like moths to a flame, clanging and clanging as they hit the treasure hunting vine. Some of the metals were directly absorbed by the treasure hunting vine when they hit it. Lin Jun was a little worried. The divine stones won't be absorbed by it, right? Chris said no. Only the gods can absorb the power inside the divine stones. If the treasure hunting vine can directly devour the divine stones one day, then it means that it already has the power of a god. Lin Jun was a little speechless. It seemed that the treasure hunting vine would grow with him forever. Would it be able to devour divine crystals one day? Clang! After a sound, Lin Jun's eyes widened. Behind the treasure hunting vine, a short sword actually stuck to it. This is a spirit treasure. A mid-grade spirit treasure was actually absorbed by the treasure hunting vine. Master, don't be surprised. Treasure hunting is the treasure hunting vine's ability. Finding a mid-grade spirit treasure is nothing. You need to evolve the treasure hunting vine as soon as possible. If it evolves again, its treasure hunting ability will continue to improve. Who knows, it might give you a big surprise. Then I'm really looking forward to it. Lin Jun had obtained a spirit treasure. If he could use the treasure hunting vine to find many spirit treasures, then he could try to sell them to other martial artists in exchange for divine stones. After confirming the treasure hunting vine's ability, Lin Jun did not continue to pay attention to it. Instead, he began to focus on recovering his strength. Although he had lost more than half of his blood, Lin Jun was not an ordinary person. His immortal spirit body could quickly recover. During the time he was talking with Chris, he had already recovered nearly half of his blood. Sitting cross-legged on the ground, Lin Jun waited for his strength to fully recover. Once his strength recovered, he would immediately break through to the middle of the three-flower realm. At that time, the treasure-hunting vine could evolve again. A series of footsteps came from afar. 3 martial artists of the Ghost Clan came to the mound on the ground where Lin Jun was. Let's rest for a while. The 3 martial artists of the Ghost Clan sat down and seemed to be eating something as they chatted. Have you heard? There seems to be a fierce power struggle at Qingqiu Mountain. I heard that it's a war between women. The sisters are fighting for the position of imperial concubine. Let's not care about those things. It's none of our business anyway. Let's think about what treasures we can exchange for this time. These divine stones are too hard to find. We've been in the Storm Realm for a month, and we've only obtained less than 50 divine stones. It's not even enough to exchange for something good. There's no need to rush. Once we reach the graveyard, we'll encounter those trash from the surface races. Once we kill a few of them, their divine stones will be ours. Rather than looking for divine stones here, it's better to look for enemies and kill them. That's the fastest way to get rich. That's right, but we're all in the divine realm. We can only go to the planetary cemetery. We don't dare to go to places like the crisscross continent. The conversation of the few Ghost Clan members entered Lin Jun's ears without missing a word. The people above Lin Jun were 3 Ghost Clan members in the divine realm. 2 of them were in the middle stage, and 1 was in the late stage. The strength of a Ghost Clan in the late stage of the divine realm was similar to Muin's level. Currently, Lin Jun was not confident in fighting one-on-one. Chris, analyze the strength of these 3 Ghost Clan members. Master, these 3 Ghost Clan members are quite strong. 1 is a green ghost, and the other 2 are impermanence ghosts. The black and white impermanence ghosts are in the middle stage of the divine realm. Their star power is around 350 million, which is similar to Master strength. The green Ghost Clan member has a star power of 420 million. It's very difficult to deal with them. 400 million star power. At this level, they're almost at the level of a super godly body. In other words, they can only unleash 90% of their star power, which is equivalent to 370 million star power. If it's one-on-one, I can give it a try. Unfortunately, there are 2 impermanence ghosts here. Master, are you going to kill these 3 Ghost Clan members? Since we've met, of course I'll give it a try. Killing 3 of them will give me 3,000 points. If I kill a few more, I'll be able to become a 3-star warrior. Lin Jun let out a deep breath. Let me reach the middle stage of the 3 flower realm first. Then, I'll be able to succeed. After making up his mind, Lin Jun raised his hand. The light fiend turned into a protective layer that wrapped around him. Then, he took out the flower cultivation pill and swallowed it. Chapter 901. Lin Jun had successfully refined all of the flower-nourishing pills for the 3-flower realm. This time, he took out the flower-nourishing pill for the auric flower. The condensation of the auric flower meant that one had entered the middle stage of the 3-flower realm. The biggest effect of condensing the flower was that it could greatly improve a warrior's physical strength, endurance, and physique. Of course, it would also greatly increase one's astral power. Lin Jun's base was high. Every time he advanced, his strength would increase by leaps and bounds. The pill toxins in his body had been dissolved. Under the effect of the flower-nourishing pill, Lin Jun immediately began to break through. Protected by the light fiend's shield, Lin Jun's aura of breaking through would not leak out. He didn't have to worry about being discovered by the 3 Ghost Clan warriors above. This kind of small breakthrough was very smooth. After 20 minutes, Lin Jun had completely broken through the barrier of advancement and successfully condensed the auric flower. Above his head, a second flower bud appeared. After it appeared, it began to quickly bloom. The pill that Lin Jun took could make the flower bloom halfway. Streams of astral power circulated within the light fiend's shield. When the flower was halfway open, it finally stabilized. Although it was only a small breakthrough, it gave Lin Jun about 25 million astral power points. His astral power points increased from 350 million to 375 million. I haven't reached the peak of the middle stage yet. After I take another pill, my astral power will reach the peak. By then, I'll have 400 million astral power points. However, in the current situation, my astral power is basically enough. Although it's only an increase of 25 million, it's just enough to suppress the Ghost Clan's late-stage Divine Realm warriors. After his realm stabilized, Lin Jun quietly recalled the treasure-hunting vine. The treasure-hunting vine had been out for a day. It slithered back from the ground like a big snake and quickly shrank back into Lin Jun's hand. Lin Jun recalled it to help him fight. However, after seeing the treasure-hunting vine, Lin Jun was stunned. The treasure-hunting vine was like a rope that people selling things in the market. There were many things hanging on it. However, all of these items were treasures. There were more than 100 godstones. Lin Jun excitedly raised his hand and plucked the divine stones one by one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 77, 78, 115, 130. A total of 130 divine stones. At this moment, Lin Jun finally realized how big of a surprise Crazy had given him. In this barren land, Treasure Hunting Tongue was able to bring him 130 godstones in a single day. If he was in a treasure trove, how much would he have gained in these 49 years? It was simply unimaginable. Not only that, but there were also 3 spiritual treasures on top of it. In addition to the middle-grade short sword, there was also a long sword and a long stick, both of which were middle-grade spirit treasures. Lin Jun frowned slightly. Why are they all middle-grade? Crazy then explained to Lin Jun, Master, you'll need to upgrade the treasure-hunting vine. Spiritual treasures also have spirits. The treasure-hunting vine's current level isn't high enough. If it's upgraded again, it'll be able to search for high-grade spiritual treasures. If you enter the late 3-flower realm, it'll be able to find supreme-grade spiritual treasures for you. What if I enter the divine realm? Then that's amazing. The treasure-hunting vine will be able to find spiritual treasures for you. Countless powerhouses died in the eye of the storm, so there must be some spiritual treasures. Crazy's voice seemed to be full of anticipation. Master, don't think that upgrading is a slow process. With the treasure-hunting vine, your medicinal effects will be dissolved very quickly. You'll be able to reach the peak of the middle grade in 2 days. In another 10 days, you'll probably reach the late 3-flower realm. As long as you have enough pills, it'll only take about a month to reach the divine transformation realm. Lin Jun nodded slightly. With the treasure-hunting vine, his cultivation and treasure hunting would be as good as cheating. Moreover, he also had time deceleration, which could be used for alchemy and cultivation. Lin Jun put away the spiritual treasures that the treasure-hunting vine gave him, then quietly began to move towards the surface. On the surface, the 3 ghost race martial artists were still there. They were discussing what treasures to exchange for. This was a common problem for these martial artists. Once they had some godstones, many of them couldn't help but want to exchange for something. It was necessary for each of them to keep 1 heavenly spirit fruit. It was a life-saving item at a critical moment. The rest of the items would depend on their own needs. They couldn't speak. Instead, they flipped through the treasures one by one, trying to find something suitable for them. They had no idea that danger was about to befall them. Lin Jun's first target was the late-stage Divine World Realm Green Fiend Ghost. Among the 3 Divinity Realm ghosts, the one that posed a real threat to Lin Jun was the Green Fiend Ghost. The 2 Impermanence ghosts were nothing to Lin Jun. As long as their astral power was not higher than Lin Jun's, no one would be a match for Lin Jun, even if there were 2 of them. Without his clone around, Lin Jun's combat power would be affected to a certain extent. But now that he had the treasure-hunting vine, it would be of some help as well. The treasure-hunting vine transformed into a rope that was more than 12 meters long. Like a long snake, it silently slithered 10 meters below the surface. Lin Jun took a deep breath. Feeling that he was in his best condition, he had a thought. Do it! Whoosh! The treasure-hunting vine shot out of the ground at the speed of light, like an arrow that had just left its bow. Its target was the Green Fiend Ghost that was sitting on the mound. The late-stage Divine World Realm Ghost strength was on full display at this moment. Although the treasure-hunting vine hadn't been discovered, the Green Fiend Ghost's instinct for danger still made it react instantly. Enemy! His body shot into the air like a cannonball, and he dodged the treasure-hunting vine's first attack. The green fiend ghost released his spiritual power and immediately sensed the treasure-hunting vine's length. His sudden jump was just outside the treasure-hunting vine's length. To him, it was enough. In a battle between martial artists, there was no need to waste too much energy. The treasure-hunting vine was only a dozen meters long. If he dodged 20 to 30 meters away, not only would he be wasting his energy, but he would also miss the opportunity. But this time, he made the wrong judgment. The treasure-hunting vine could grow or shrink at will. When his body stopped moving, the treasure-hunting vine had already coiled up. Bam! The treasure-hunting vine wrapped around the green fiend ghost's ankle. The huge weight was like a planet hanging on his ankle. The green fiend ghost howled as his body was forcefully pulled down. The treasure-hunting vine was like a giant python. It turned into a flash of light and coiled around the green fiend ghost tightly. Other than his head that was still exposed, his body was completely wrapped up like a mummy. The thick thorns on the vine pierced into the green fiend ghost's body and began to suck his blood. At the same time, Lin Jun appeared. Lin Jun held the dual swords in his hands. The moment he appeared, he attacked the two middle-stage impermanence ghosts. He didn't expect the treasure-hunting vine to be so powerful and bind the green fiend ghost. Thus, Lin Jun changed his strategy and dealt with the two impermanence ghosts first. Left-handed sword, chilling cold. Right-handed sword, abyss. Both swords struck out, causing the world to lose its color. The two impermanence ghosts were attracted by the changes in the green fiend ghost. They thought that the treasure-hunting vine was some kind of demon and wanted to help. But they didn't expect Lin Jun to attack from behind. The two impermanence ghosts were weaker than Lin Jun. Moreover, Lin Jun had launched a sneak attack. There was no suspense in this attack. Poo-pu. The two impermanence ghosts' black and white bodies were sliced in half. From their legs to the top of their heads, they became 4 pieces of corpses. After succeeding in his attack, Lin Jun didn't stop. He instantly arrived in front of the green fiend ghost and slashed out with his dual swords. The pitiful green fiend ghost didn't even have a chance to use his skills. He was tightly bound by the treasure-hunting vine. Even though he erupted with all his star force, he still wasn't able to break free. In less than half a second, his life and death had been decided. Without any strength to resist, the green fiend ghost's head was directly cut off by Lin Jun. Lin Jun didn't need to do anything after that. The treasure-hunting vine wriggled several times, swallowing up the ghost corpses and digesting them. The bodies of these divine transformation realm masters were also extraordinary treasures. They had a powerful vitality and blood vitality. They were great supplements for the treasure-hunting vine. But the divine stones that the treasure-hunting vine couldn't digest were left hanging on their bodies. Lin Jun happily walked over and picked up the divine stones. The 3 Ghost Clan martial artists had over 160 divine stones on them. In addition to the divine stones that Lin Jun had just obtained, he had a total of 300 divine stones. Of course, there were also the personal belongings of the 3 ghost martial artists. But Lin Jun didn't care about ordinary things. After looking through the list of treasures given to him by the gods, the belongings of ordinary martial artists were indeed trash. Only the spirit treasures of these martial artists were decent. 1 high-grade spirit treasure and 2 medium-grade spirit treasures were all taken by Lin Jun. Master, you can do it. After obtaining another 200 divine stones, you can exchange them for a divine stone realm inheritance crystal for me. As long as I absorb these inheritance crystals, I will have a massive amount of knowledge and be able to use it flexibly. I will be able to provide great help to Master. Good. As long as you have 500 divine stones, I will exchange them for an inheritance crystal for you. Thank you, Master. After exchanging for a divine stone realm inheritance crystal ball, I won't need a divine stone realm inheritance crystal ball. Next, Master will exchange for a demigod realm inheritance crystal ball for me, and so on. If Master can exchange for a divine inheritance, then I will definitely be able to give Master a great surprise. Lin Jun swallowed. There is only a single divine inheritance crystal ball, and it required 100,000 divine stones to exchange for it. He estimated that no one would have the ability to exchange for it in a short period of time. He didn't know whether or not he would be the first to obtain it. But since it was beneficial to him, Lin Jun would do it without hesitation. After obtaining the treasure-hunting vine, Lin Jun was filled with confidence. Moreover, Lin Jun had another harvest. His Star Warrior points had reached over 4,000. Once he reached 10,000 points, he would become a 3-star warrior. Looking at the time, Lin Jun discovered that he had been gone for almost 2 days. I should return. I'll deal with the matters over there and then immediately return to the endless races. This is also a treasure trove of wealth. Chapter 902. The return journey wasn't smooth either. Lin Jun tore through space for the first time and was 10 light years away. After resting for a while, he tried the second time and managed to reduce the distance to a few 100 million kilometers. Then, Lin Jun flew as fast as lightning and finally returned to the original location. The clone was still comprehending the shadowless step on the meteorite. When Lin Jun arrived, he immediately swapped places with the clone. Just as the swap was completed, Mu-En appeared. Lin Jun, it's about time. Do you want to continue resting? Our team doesn't have a freeloader. Lin Jun stood up and stretched his tired body after a long flight. He squinted his eyes and looked at Mu-En. Did I sign a contract to sell myself? Can't I rest for a while? Resting for 2 days makes me a freeloader? Then how many divine stones did you find in the past 2 days? Let's see if you're better than a freeloader like me. Mu-En's face darkened. Cut the crap. We're all smart people. Don't say such sour words. I have my value in the team, and it's not something you can replace. Lin Jun also snorted from his nostrils. What value do you have? If not for the fact that we're both from the Fallen Star Lake, I wouldn't have agreed to team up with someone like you. How dare you? Mu-En was ranked 4th in the team and was already unhappy. Now that he couldn't even suppress Lin Jun, who was ranked 5th, wouldn't he lose face? No matter what, he had to make Lin Jun understand the principle of ranking. Otherwise, he would be riding on his head. Lin Jun, others respect you because of your alchemy skills and not because of your strength. If you don't understand this principle, you won't be able to survive in the eye of the storm with your alchemy skills. If you don't understand, I can help you understand the importance of strength. With just you? Stop joking. Mu-En was so angry that he laughed. Ha ha. Good. Since you're so stubborn, it seems like I have to wake you up. As he spoke, Mu-En raised his hand and threw a punch at Lin Jun. Mu-En's star power was more than 410 million. While Lin Jun's star power was 375 million. However, Lin Jun could unleash 100% of his star power. The two of them were evenly matched. Seeing Mu-En's punch, Lin Jun didn't dodge. Starfall. With the same amount of astral powers, Lin Jun would not be afraid of anyone. She would fight them head-on with her strong body. He puffed up his chest and took Mun's punch head-on. Similarly, his fist landed on Mun's chest. Mu-En's chest was badly mutilated. His sternum was shattered, and his heart was exposed. Mu-En screamed. His body spun and tumbled into the depths of the starry sky. Lin Jun shook his body and broke free from the meteorite. There was a cold smile on his face. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't fall out with Mu-En, Lin Jun could have ended Mu-En's life with a starburst. The commotion attracted the attention of Lu Tianhua and the others. Lu Tianhua, Chen Yuan, and Arudi quickly rushed over. Lu Tianhua's eyes were sharp. He immediately saw the injured Mu-En in the distance. He immediately flew over and pulled Mu-En back. A shattered sternum wasn't a fatal injury for a warrior. After Mu-En took a life-saving elixir, he was fine for the time being. However, his eyes were fixed on Lin Jun. He wanted to eat him up, but there was also a trace of fear in his eyes. He never thought that he would lose to Lin Jun in a head-on confrontation. He almost lost his life with just one punch. Although Mu-En felt that he was careless, he also knew that Lin Jun's strength was definitely not as simple as it seemed. Now that he took a closer look, he realized that Lin Jun had advanced from the early stage of the Three-Flower Realm to the mid-stage of the Three-Flower Realm. Lu Tianhua was also very dissatisfied. Lin Jun, why did you sneak an attack on Mu-En? Lin Jun heard this and laughed. Sneak attack? Captain, which eye of yours saw that I sneak attacked? Lu Tianhua didn't expect Lin Jun's attitude to be so tough. In his opinion, If it wasn't for Lin Jun's sneak attack, how could Muin be injured by Lin Jun? He instinctively questioned, but he didn't expect Lin Jun to not give him any face. Lin Jun pointed at Muin. You set yourself. Did I sneak attack you? Muin wanted to continue Lu Tianhua's words to frame Lin Jun, but Lin Jun added, don't try to lie. Before I sense something happening, I will record it in the dimensional universe. It's useless for you to lie. Muin wanted to frame him, but he forcefully swallowed it back. He said gloomily, no, we just had a head-on confrontation and exchanged a blow. Everyone was stunned when they heard this. No one expected Lin Jun to be able to injure Mu In a head-on confrontation. Lin Jun continued, Senior brother Mu In wanted to teach me how to be a person and let me understand the importance of strength. However, it seems that senior brother doesn't have a deep understanding of the importance of strength. Mu In's face turned red. He couldn't wait to find a hole to hide in. Even in his dreams, he didn't expect such an outcome. Lu Tianhua was also a little embarrassed. He had wrongly accused Lin Jun. Previously, he only thought that Lin Jun knew alchemy and was a little strong, but not strong. He didn't expect that Lin Jun would be able to win against Muin. He laughed and said, it's all a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding. It's common for cultivators to exchange pointers. This matter is in the past. We will still be good brothers in the future. Unexpectedly, Lin Jun firmly said, Captain, it seems that I'm not welcome in the team. Rather than staying here sullenly, I think it's better for me to leave the team. Lu Tianhua's expression changed. If Lin Jun left the team, their income would be greatly reduced. For the past 2 days, every time Lin Jun went out to look for divine stones, the 4 of them couldn't guarantee that they would get 4 divine stones a day. Yesterday, Muin didn't get any divine stones. That was why he came to find Lin Jun in a hurry today. He also knew that his questioning of Lin Jun had made the other party jealous. He quickly said, Junior brother Lin, we are all from the same sect. We can't hurt our friendship over such a small matter. There are enemies everywhere. We have to advance and retreat together. Chun Yuan and Arudi also tried to persuade him. They didn't want Lin Jun to leave the team, especially Chun Yuan. His tone was sincere and his attitude was sincere. He really felt that Lin Jun was in danger and didn't want Lin Jun to leave. Lin Jun didn't care about the others, but he still had to care about Chun Yuan. Just as he was about to speak to Chun Yuan, a voice suddenly echoed in everyone's dimensional universe. I am Fu Tian City's heartless monarch. I am now offering a bounty to all the martial artists on the ground. This person is from Sky Square City. His name is Lin Jun, and he's a saint-tier alchemist. Whoever can provide me with the exact coordinates of Lin Jun, I will give him 500 divine stones. Everyone was stunned. The only person who could speak like this was the golden loudspeaker on the exchange board. That was 20 divine stones each. They had been in the eye of the storm for a month. Almost everyone's wealth was in the double digits. There were even some who had single digits. 20 divine stones was a huge fortune for anyone. But Heartless Monarch was really generous. He directly used 20 divine stones to buy a loudspeaker and put Lin Jun on the wanted list. Putting Lin Jun on the wanted list was the main point, but what was more important was the last sentence of the Heartless Monarch. The reward was 500 divine stones. To be able to say such a thing, it meant that the Heartless Monarch had at least 500 divine stones in his hands. 500 divine stones. He could directly buy a divine stone realm inheritance crystal ball. He could buy a supreme grade spiritual treasure. He could buy a cultivation method that was suitable for him. This was a huge fortune. It made one's blood boil. It made one feel crazy. The others might not know where Lin Jun was, but the 4 members of this team were right beside Lin Jun. How could they not know? Muin's eyes lit up first. He couldn't help licking his lips. Muin looked at Lin Jun as if he was looking at a pile of sparkling divine stones. Captain, Muin spoke to Lu Tianhua. Muin said to Lu Tianhua. Although he didn't finish his sentence, the meaning behind it was self-evident. Lu Tianhua was a little hesitant. If Lin Jun was willing to work for this team wholeheartedly, he really couldn't bear to hand Lin Jun over. After all, Lin Jun's ability to find divine stones wasn't bad. But now that Lin Jun wanted to leave, The 500 divine stones were too tempting. He understood Mu-Un's meaning. But after thinking for a while, he rejected Mu-Un's suggestion. No, Lin Jun is our brother. I definitely won't hand him over. I also won't let him take the risk alone. After saying that, Lu Tianhua came to Chen Yuan's side. Junior brother, now is a critical time. We can't let others find Lin Jun. You guys stay here. I'll go over there and tell them. Then we'll leave immediately. Go to a remote place. I don't believe the heartless monarch can find us. After saying that, Lu Tianhua turned and left. At the same time, he pointed at Mu-Un. Give up. Mu-Un's face was gloomy. He didn't look at Lu Tianhua. Lin Jun glanced at the two of them. He knew what they were thinking. However, Lin Jun didn't care too much. The heartless monarch wanted him, but it didn't mean he would succeed. Lin Jun had already decided to leave immediately. Turning to look at Chen Yuan, Lin Jun said indifferently, Senior brother Chen, trust me. Leave this place immediately. You're leaving? Chen Yuan asked. Lin Jun nodded. Chen Yuan didn't ask any more questions. Such a team made him feel a little disappointed. However, he didn't have anywhere to go. He was a little hesitant. Lin Jun glanced around and saw that Mu-In had already hidden on the other side of the meteorite. Without a doubt, he was going to exchange for the trumpet to inform the heartless monarch. Lu Tianhua's goal was definitely the same as Mu-On's. He was going to find a place where no one could see him. Lin Jun didn't leave immediately. Instead, he waited for them to make a move. Sure enough, after a minute, two voices sounded at almost the same time. Chapter 903. Although Lin Jun expected both of them to report, he did not expect them to report at the same time. This was really coincidental. Lin Jun's location is north of the eye of the storm. Coordinates 88,745 to 239,901. I'm Mu-En. Lu Tianhua's words were basically the same as Mu-On's, except that he changed his name. As soon as they finished speaking, Lin Jun felt a sense of danger. The Heartless King was coming. Lin Jun waved at Chen Yuan and suddenly separated his hands. He directly tore through space and entered the spatial crack. As soon as Lin Jun disappeared, the Heartless King appeared. The surrounding temperature instantly dropped a lot. The cold man who looked like an ice sculpture appeared. His knife-like gaze swept across and finally landed on Lu Tianhua and Mu-In, who had just arrived. Where's Lin Jun? The Heartless King asked calmly. Lu Tianhua and Mu-In almost fell out with each other. If both of them reported at the same time, who would get the 500 Godstones? Lu Tianhua felt that it should be his, but Mu-In would not give in just because the other party was the captain. He'd spent 20 Godstones on the small horn. Hearing the Heartless King's question, the two of them looked around and their expressions changed. Chen Yuan, Arudi, where's Lin Jun? Lu Tianhua asked anxiously. Chen Yuan let out a cold snort and didn't say anything. Arudi, who was straightforward by nature, glanced at Lu Tianhua and Lu Xian in disdain. He has already left. With teammates like you two, why would he stay here and wait for death? He left. How'd he leave? Arudi gestured. He just tore through space and left. The two of them were shocked. They did not know that Lin Jun had such an ability. If they had known, they would not have sold him out so carelessly even if they had tied up Lin Jun and knocked him out. Unfortunately, it was too late to say anything now. The Heartless King's cold gaze swept across the two of them. You wasted my energy. Damn it. Lu Tianhua and Mu-In knew that something was wrong. They turned around and ran in two different directions. Heartless King raised his hand, and the ice sword flew out without any fancy moves. Lu Tianhua and the other man did not even have the strength to resist, and were killed on the spot. As the sword light flew past, the corpse was frozen, shattered, and finally turned into ice dregs. This process took less than 0.1 seconds. To the Heartless King, killing the two of them was as normal as breathing. Putting away his sword, the Heartless King closed his eyes. You actually know the spatial escape technique. Lin Jun, I really underestimated you. However, do you think that you can escape from my bounty just like that? If 500 isn't enough, then 1,000. If 1,000 isn't enough, then 2,000. 3,000. 3,000 godly stones is a godly crystal. I will make sure you have nowhere to hide in the eye of the storm. Sooner or later, I will catch you." With a twist of his body, the Heartless King entered the spatial crack and disappeared. On the other side, Chun Yuan and Arudi did not even dare to breathe loudly. They only heaved a sigh of relief when the Heartless King disappeared. "Junior apprentice brother Lin?" Arudi hesitated. Chun Yuan shook his head slightly. "Don't worry about anything. I think Lin Jun will be safe and sound." After saying that, Chun Yuan added, "After seeing his performance in Sky City's virtual battlefield, I know that this kid is extraordinary. He is only 1,100 years old this year." Arudi was stunned for a moment before he suddenly said, "Fifth senior apprentice brother is going to be released." After Lin Jun left, all the martial artists of the surface races received the Heartless King's notification through the loudspeaker. Lin Jun's bounty had increased to 1,000 godly stones. However, they had to ensure that Lin Jun was captured alive. This bounty made many martial artists go crazy. They would carefully check if it was Lin Jun. If Lin Jun encountered other martial artists of the surface races, he would most likely be attacked immediately. Many people thought that there would definitely be people who would continue to report Lin Jun's location to the Heartless King. However, Lin Jun seemed to have disappeared without a trace. No one sent out any more reports in the dimensional universe. Everyone was very surprised. Could it be that Lin Jun had disappeared just like that? However, most people thought that Lin Jun's hiding was only temporary. There were very few godly stones in the outer regions. In the end, he would still have to go to an area like the planet cemetery unless he wanted to come here for free. After entering the spatial rift, Lin Jun realized that he had lost his way again. The spatial turbulence here was very strong. It was very difficult to even stand. Although Lin Jun was not afraid of the elemental turbulence, he could not completely avoid the impact. Lin Jun felt that without 1 billion star power, he would not be able to stand in such a spatial rift calmly. He could only rely on his own impression. After walking for a while, Lin Jun felt that he was getting more and more wrong. "This won't do. If this continues, I might end up somewhere else. Since I'm wrong, I might as well choose a better place. To the planet cemetery." Lin Jun recalled the coordinates of the planet cemetery and turned around resolutely. After walking for a while, Lin Jun felt that it was about time. "I hope I won't be wrong this time." After coming out of the spatial rift, light flickered in front of his eyes. Lin Jun arrived at a brand new place. After coming out, Lin Jun was stunned. In front of him was a boundless continent. A continent in the general sense was nothing more than a large piece of land. For example, Earth's Eurasia continent, Africa continent, and so on. However, the continent in front of him was different from those traditional continents. This was a continent made up of countless planets. It was a continent that extended beyond human imagination. A humongous hill was like a bulging planet. A sunken depression was the gap between two planets. Moreover, the planets here were not round in the general sense. Many of them were oval-shaped or deflated like basketballs, showing irregular distortions. These are all dead planets. Standing in the void, Lin Jun looked at the boundless continent that extended to infinity beyond his field of vision. This continent is probably tens of thousands of light years away. It's simply inconceivable. Even with Lin Jun's knowledge, he was still shocked for a while. After recovering with great difficulty, Lin Jun immediately called out to Chris. "Chris, let me see. Is this the planet cemetery?" Chris seemed to be calculating for a while before she hesitantly said, "It should be, Master. According to the data, the planetary graveyard is an almost infinite piece of land. Hundreds of thousands of planets are squeezed together and collide with each other like a chain car accident. In the end, it formed a dead and barren land." A car accident, that's an apt description. These planets really do feel like they collided with each other. But why did this happen? I've looked up the information about the Eye of the Storm. 15 million years ago, the armies of two gods had a fierce battle. This planet cemetery was the place where the battle was the largest and the death toll was the highest. 70 to 80% of the people in the armies of the two gods died here. At that time, the battle was very intense. When they charged at each other, each cultivator controlled a planet and used the planet as a mount. This way, they could increase the impact of the battle. When one person did this, the other cultivators followed suit and gathered all the nearby planets, eventually forming a planetary cemetery. Master can look around. Within 100 light years of this planetary cemetery, I'm afraid you won't be able to find another planet. After listening to Chris's introduction, Lin Jun couldn't help but click his tongue. Just thinking about such a scene made him feel incomparably shocked. Hundreds of thousands, millions of martial artists charging on planets and colliding with each other. That kind of scene could no longer be described as earth-shattering. Earth-shattering was generally used to describe the doomsday scene on a planet. But what about hundreds of thousands of planets colliding? Lin Jun thought for a while, but couldn't find a suitable word to describe that scene. It could only shock, and shock. Master, this should be the planet cemetery. When the Eye of the Storm was opened twice, not many people came the first time. The second time, there were a lot more people. However, with such a huge continent, I believe that the people who came before probably didn't even find 1/10 of the treasures in the planet cemetery. Master, take root here and search carefully. The harvest will definitely be shocking. Chris's voice was like a little money grubber. Lin Jun was still immersed in the great battle 15 million years ago, but she had already begun to think about the treasures here. Don't worry, you won't miss out on your inheritance crystal ball. Lin Jun was also tempted at this time. With the treasure-seeking vine, he had a cheat. This endless continent in front of him was a treasure trove. Where should I start? Master, I suggest that you start searching from the edge and don't go to the north or south. Why? It's very simple. The surface races and the endless races must pass through the north and south. If someone came here first, then these two directions will definitely bear the brunt. Moreover, the Eye of the Storm hasn't been open for long. Those who can come here first must be experts among experts. It's not that I want to diminish Master's prestige, but before you have enough strength to protect yourself, it's best that you don't come into contact with others. After all, you're still worth 1,000 godstones. Lin Jun nodded slightly. You're right. I can't give others an opportunity to take advantage of me. Moreover, there should be fewer people at the edge. The chances of encountering enemies in the east and west are also lower. That's right. Master, please hurry up and start. Your treasure-seeking vine is already unable to endure its thirst. Chris appeared to be even more anxious than Lin Jun. Wait a moment, I still have something to do. As Lin Jun spoke, he took out 20 godstones from his inner world. Master, what are you doing? Chris asked. Just now, the Heartless King put a bounty on me. Anyway, 20 godstones can't do anything. If I don't disgust him, he'll think that I, Lin Jun, am easy to bully. After speaking, Lin Jun exchanged for a golden trumpet from the reward panel. Chapter 904. Hearing Lin Jun's words, even Chris, an artificial intelligence, was stunned. Master, 2,000 for the coordinates? Do you have that many godstones now? No. Then you... Isn't this cheating? Lin Jun waved his hand. No, it's not cheating. It's bragging. Do you think these martial artists are fools? Heartless King has always been alone. No one knows the coordinates. Even if someone did, no one would believe me. But this can disgust Heartless King. Crazy was confused, but this won't do you any good. I don't remember Master being such an impulsive and high-profile person. Lin Jun pondered for a moment. I have my reasons for being so high-profile. Heartless King just happened to be here. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Lin Jun's actions caused the warriors on the ground to be shocked once again. Heartless King wanted Lin Jun. This was reasonable. Arrogance was the privilege of the strong. But Lin Jun wanted Heartless King instead. This was hard to understand. He made it sound like if Heartless King's coordinates were given, Heartless King would dare to look for him. Wasn't he trying to disgust people? However, the crowd was more excited than anything else. Lin Jun was truly courageous. If it were any other person who was wanted by the Heartless King, they would have long since found a rat hole to hide in, afraid that they would be discovered. But Lin Jun didn't do that. Instead, he rebuked Heartless King. This was challenging Heartless King's dignity. Was a king-ranked martial artist's dignity that easy to challenge? He would wait for Heartless King's revenge. Everyone was looking forward to Heartless King's reaction. On the crisscrossing continent, Heartless King sat on a broken meteorite in the shape of a crescent moon. He was cultivating when he heard Lin Jun's news. Whoosh! A white cold air was emitted from his body, forming a thick layer of frost on the surface of the meteorite. Good. Lin Jun, you have guts. Heartless King's face was cold as he exchanged for a golden horn on the exchange board. Previously, he had more than 500 divine stone because this was the first time he had wanted to capture Lin Jun. If he had really caught him, he would have given the informant a reward. However, he did not succeed and let Lin Jun escape. In his opinion, since Lin Jun had run away, he would not appear again for the time being, and the 500 godstones would not be of any use for the time being. The Heartless King spent 300 godstones to exchange for a cold attribute spirit treasure. Now, he only had 200 godstones left. Merciless King took out another 20 stones to exchange for a golden megaphone, and he immediately retaliated. Lin Jun, stop bragging. My coordinates are 552,331 to 82,374. If you really have the ability, come over. I'll wait for you here. Emotionless King was careful when he said that. He did not say his exact location, but there was a slight deviation. This was for his own safety. Although he was not afraid of Lin Jun, he still had other enemies. Hiding behind the meteorite, Emotionless King stared at the spatial coordinates and waited to see if Lin Jun would appear. Emotionless King had indeed retaliated. Hearing Emotionless King say the spatial coordinates, the other martial artists were in an uproar. They were really going at each other. I knew Emotionless King would not be polite with Lin Jun. He is an emperor, and Lin Jun is nothing. Although he is a Saint Master, in the eye of the storm, the identity of a Saint Master is not as useful as an emperor. Lin Jun must be scared this time. Sigh. They are not even on the same level. Lin Jun probably won't dare to say anything. Even if he wants to say something, he has to be able to. 20 godstones can only exchange for a megaphone. Lin Jun will probably be out of money after exchanging for 2 or 3 megaphones. Such discussions were happening everywhere. There was no dimensional universe forum in the eye of the storm, so it was difficult for people to communicate. They could only talk within a small circle. However, to everyone's surprise, Lin Jun retaliated. Hearing Emotionless King's words, Lin Jun immediately exchanged for a megaphone again. After a while, he shouted in the dimensional universe, "Liar! Your coordinates are on the Stagger continent. I went there, but I did not see you." Lin Jun was just making things up. He was not stupid enough to go check, but it would be difficult for Emotionless King to prove it. Plus, he believed that Emotionless King would not dare reveal his coordinates. At least, he would not dare reveal his exact coordinates. In Emotionless King's eyes, his enemy was definitely not Lin Jun. Even emperors had enemies. Emotionless King was alone, so it would be strange if he revealed his location. Emotionless King did not even see Lin Jun coming. Hearing Lin Jun distort the truth, he was furious. He exchanged for a megaphone again, wanting to retaliate against Lin Jun. Lin Jun, be Aster's starred. Stop making things up. I have been waiting here and did not see you at all. Emotionless King believed that everyone would still believe him and not Lin Jun. It would not be easy for Lin Jun to discredit him. But before Lin Jun could recover, the space at the coordinates suddenly fluctuated and someone appeared. Chasing Soul King and 2 other king-ranked martial artists appeared at the same coordinates. It was obvious that they were here for Heartless King. Emotionless King's body was completely hidden within the meteorite, and Chasing Soul King and the others did not notice. Liar. Emotionless King is a piece of trash. He actually lied to Lin Jun. He is an embarrassment to all emperors. When Chasing Soul King heard Emotionless King's coordinates, he immediately asked 2 friends to come and kill Emotionless King. However, he did not expect to find him. Chasing Soul King was not a good-tempered person. Back at the auction house, Emotionless King had stolen his god crystal. In addition, there was still a grudge between them. He hated Emotionless King to the core. Now that he had come for nothing, his temper flared, and he exchanged for a megaphone. Emotionless King is a piece of trash who does not pay taxes. I, chasing Soul King, am at your coordinates. I did not even see anything. If you're here, come out. Instead, it is little brother Lin Jun who just left. Emotionless King is an embarrassment to all emperors. Since he had already scolded Emotionless King, it did not matter if he did Lin Jun a favor. If he could discredit Emotionless King, Chasing Soul King was more than willing to do it. The two emperors who came with Chasing Soul King were also furious. They exchanged for megaphones to support Chasing Soul King. I, Grand Desolation City's Iron Hand King, I will prove Chasing Soul King's words. I, Thundercloud City's Ghost Shadow King, will prove Chasing Soul King's words. The three emperors came out together to scold Emotionless King. This made people believe it. This shocked everyone. Lin Jun actually dared to look for Emotionless King, and Emotionless King did not dare to report his coordinates. Immediately, a few people who were not afraid to spend Godstones to speak. Lin Jun, good job. I, Fantasy World City's half-god Azek, look forward to your growth. Haha, what a wonderful show. Saint Teacher Lin Jun, I will remember your name. Your courage is as admirable as your alchemy skills. I am Godstone, Realm Martial Artist XXX. AI, emperors actually play such tricks. How sad. Emotionless King is too disappointing. Everyone is really rich, spending 20 Godstones worth of megaphone without batting an eyelid. I, Flowing Fire Cities do Yuechang admire you. At the same time, I support Lin Jun. The dead atmosphere in the eye of the storm was swept away. Immediately, it became lively. Emotionless King looked at this scene and felt extremely sullen. However, he did not dare to look for Soul, Chasing King, and the others. 1 against 3, he had no chance of winning. Only after Soul, Chasing King, and the others left did Emotionless King exchange for another megaphone and scold Lin Jun for being a liar. Unfortunately, no one believed him now. Lin Jun was not done yet. Seeing that Emotionless King dared to scold him back, he immediately exchanged for a megaphone. A saint alchemist and an emperor demigod actually started a war of words in the dimensional universe. Just like in online games, some rich players would spend money to buy items and scold people all over the world. It was not a competition of words, but a competition of wealth. When one person stopped, it proved that he had lost and could not compete with the other party. Emotionless King obviously could not stop now. He exchanged all 200 Godstones for a megaphone. Every time Lin Jun scolded him, he would scold him. He did not believe that Lin Jun had that many Godstones. The two of them went back and forth. When Lin Jun scolded him for the 10th time, Emotionless King realized that he did not have any Godstones left. Lin Jun, this bastard. He actually has so many Godstones. Is he crazy? Using so many Godstones to scold me. Does he not want to exchange for treasures in the eye of the storm? If Emotionless King still had Godstones, he would fight Lin Jun to the death no matter how much he spent. Unfortunately, he did not have any. At this moment, he regretted exchanging for treasures first. Otherwise, with 500 Godstones, he believed that he could defeat Lin Jun. Unfortunately, he could only watch as Lin Jun continue to spam. Emotionless King, continue. Why are you scared? You can't afford it, right? With such little wealth, you have the nerve to spend 1,000 Godstones to hunt me down. Even if someone really reported my coordinates to you, can you pay them? Ha ha. After a few more spam, Lin Jun saw that Emotionless King had completely stopped. He threw out a trash and stopped scolding him. Such a wonderful show left all the warriors on the ground dumbfounded. Tycoon, capricious. A martial artist who had not even reached the divine transformation realm had actually made a king-ranked demigod speechless. Or rather, he had no money. As long as Emotionless King had money, he would never admit defeat in such a situation. One could imagine how angry Emotionless King was at this moment. If he did not vent his anger, he could only be a king-ranked demigod for the rest of his life. He would not even succeed in refining a god crystal. Everyone calculated that Lin Jun had posted 15 messages in such a short time. That was 300 Godstones. For a time, Some martial artists spent god stones to speak in the dimensional universe. 666. Lin Jun is mighty. Tycoon is domineering. You become famous this time.